thought you might break, but you're stronger, stronger than you think. Ooh. The sun shines always brightest after the rain, and the sweetest kind of triumph comes after all the pain. So keep on holding on, there will be a better day. look easy. Come on, won't you make it look, make it look easy. Make it look easy. Make it look easy. We could go to the plaza or anywhere that we wanna. Live it up for the drama. Make it hot, make it lava. We've been here all day, swimming in the finer things. Just got me a taste. Won't you be my diamond ring? I love the way you make it look easy. Come on, won't you make it look easy. Make it look easy. Make it look. 1, 2, 3, come with me. We can make it look easy. 1, 2, 3, count on me. We can make it look easy. 1, 2, 3, come with me. We can make it look easy. 1, 2, 3, count on me. We can make it look easy. Make it look easy. Make it look easy.
Ain't nobody stopping me. Ain't nobody stopping me. Ain't nobody stopping me. Ain't nobody stopping me. Ain't nobody stopping me.
up, make it loud, look at you. Hands up if you wanna move. Hands up to the roof when I count 2, 3. Hands up to the roof if you're BAD. I know you think I'm special, yes I'm so electric, heavy metal, watch me glow. Follow me, the cat's pajamas on the prowl. Yeah, I'm a baddie, yeah, I'm a baddie. Wanna talk to my women's? Hands up if you wanna get it, get it. It's a takedown, baby. Hands up if you got that thing, thing. Gotta turn it up, feel the heat, make it sweat. Hands up if you're feeling it. Hands up to the roof when I count 2, 3. Hands up to the roof if you be 18 now. Yeah, 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 yeah. I know you think I'm special, yes I'm so electric, heavy metal, watch me glow. Follow me, the cat's pajamas on the prowl. Yeah, I'm a baddie, yeah, I'm a baddie. I know you think I'm special, yes I'm so electric, heavy metal, watch me glow. Follow me, the cat's pajamas on the prowl. Yeah, I'm a baddie, yeah, I'm a baddie. I know you think I'm special, yes I'm so electric, heavy metal, watch me glow. Follow me, the cat's pajamas on the prowl. Yeah, I'm a baddie, yeah, I'm a baddie.
Welcome back to Kart Rider Drift League. Kart Rider fans everywhere, my name is Wolf. I'm joined by State. We have our second preseason well underway. We're getting to about the halfway point here of regular season. I think I'm a little bit close there. About halfway through regular season here for our team league. And today is Wednesday. So that means today is the day we have 3 team league matches. We've got 2 really close ones, the ones that could end up having an upset, but we have obviously a very strong team in KWANGDONG playing against ShowTime later on, so pretty stacked lineup today.
Yeah, Aura versus Liiv SANDBOX to start things off today should be a lot of fun too. Both these teams are looking really strong so far this season, and we were talking in the pre-show how it feels like here in KDL Preseason 2, it's almost a little bit like the rich get richer in terms of skill with how good these top teams have been getting as we get a look at the overview of the team matches today. Starting things out, it will be Aura versus Liiv SANDBOX. And actually, wait, no, that's not the screen just yet. Excuse me, I jumped the gun here. This is the overview for the for this season.
That's right. Here's all of the schedule, of course, in terms of where we're going. Main stage will end on the 12th, so like I said, we're about halfway through with that, and then we'll move into postseason or playoffs. That'll be on the 15th and 16th, and we'll move into the grand finals on the 23rd, a week later. So a lot of exciting matches still yet to come. I think we don't really have yet a clear picture of who is our best team. I think you can draw a line around top 4, right? Sensation, I think, one of those teams that could end up making it to that top 4 cutoff, as potential ShowTime and Seraphic still yet to take a single win here. ShowTime is playing against a tough opponent in KWANGDONGFREECS tonight, so we'll see if they can bounce back. Definitely been a rough start for them in Seraphic.
Yeah, Potential was looking really good in their first couple of matches against some tough opponents in week 1 and week 2, but going down 3 sets in this round robin format, there's only so much Cartwrighter left to play for them to gain ground. So it really does feel like, you know, Liiv SANDBOX, the Freaks, Seongnam ROX, they're kind of a shoe-in here for the playoffs, whereas Aura and Sensation, they're right on the cusp. And for Aura here in match number 1 against Liiv SANDBOX, this is going to be a pretty crucial one in terms of deciding their fate here in the KDL preseason. Same with Sensation up against Seongnam ROX. These are both these middle-ranking teams going against top-ranking pro teams, and if they can take a win right here, that could be the difference maker when, you know, we come down to the postseason.
Yeah, it certainly could be, and that match for Sensation, I think, is going to be a defining one. If they're able to win it, I think their chances of making playoffs rocket up. As in the first matchup, I actually personally kind of favor Aura here. I think they're on the rise, and Liiv SANDBOX have gone through some health issues and concerns and haven't looked themselves. They've still been dominant, right? Still up at the top of the standings, but haven't been as dominant. And Aura has been looking really good, very improved in speed. So, you know, I want to say, and this sounds like a hipster thing to say, but I kind of want to give like a 51-49 edge to Aura here. I think it could go either way. We might see that ace match there. So I'm really looking forward to this one. And let's go ahead and welcome the players here of Aura onto the stage. One of our big underdog stories of Preseason 1, making that deep playoffs run, nearly qualifying for the finals.
Yeah, and here in Preseason 2, they're even stronger, adding in Looning to their roster. I know you were high on him from the gates in Preseason 1, and so far for Aura, he's been showing up. He's a big part of why this team is starting to excel in speed. He's done a fantastic job of filling in that runner role, and all around, I mean, the Noctec duo there in item mode, plus the improved performance from them in speed, it's just looking like a totally different Aura here at the KDL.
It really is a very strong team, a well-rounded package here, as their opponents on the side of Liiv SANDBOX have largely recovered from the health issues, the woes they were facing last week. So all players will be playing from the studio today, I'm told, and it's very good news for the fans who've been waiting to see this roster again in its full form, as Neil leading the charge today. And, I mean, this team is no slouch when it comes to speed. Their item mode has been quite strong this season thus far, even with the new patch. Nothing has really changed here in terms of performance, despite Byungsu and Dalda being new additions to the roster.
Yeah, Byungsu and Speed, Byungsu and Speed, excuse me, in particular have been impressing me so far this season, as Liiv SANDBOX has been trying to fill in the shoes of, you know, a lot of holes in their roster from the end of KDL Season 1, losing some key players, but now adding in, I mean, Byungsu coming over from Sensation has been a fantastic addition, and a lot of us were afraid of where Liiv SANDBOX would stand here in KDL Preseason 2 after these changes to their roster, but so far looking strong.
Certainly the case. Though the win streak was stopped, the 1-2 punch will continue. A team famous for their 1-2 finish win condition in speed, and they have continued to prove that they can make that happen here in Preseason 2. And it says, I can't do anything but win, that sign. So it's a bit of a meme these days. Like, I don't know how to lose. I don't know how to do anything but winning. And last time it was KWANGDONG who asked for the item god to bless with good items. KWANGDONG was blessed, so I think Aura is like, well, might as well give it a shot.
Yeah, man. It looks like we're at the beginning of a new faith being created here, right? I mean, if Aura comes through with this, might have some sacrifices being made to the item god.
Yeah, we're just gonna do every single trash talk liner is gonna be for asking help for the item god. It's just gonna be, it's gonna say like in parentheses 64, like at the end of the season.
Yeah, getting a look here at Liiv SANDBOX. So far have not been defeated in speed match. I actually didn't know that they're undefeated to this point, as they're looking really strong. Reputation of the invincible fleet, as, I mean, Hyunsu, Byungsu, and Neil, the top 3 names here in speed mode for this roster, are so good, and whatever trash talk they said back on them, but, you know, Aura with no trash talk, they just want the favor of the gods here.
Yeah, so maybe this, I don't know if the gods will shine or like look favorably on a mirrored version of the proposal to please give good items. I mean, I don't know, but at the end of the day, this one landed a little bit flat for me, Liiv SANDBOX.
I think they did
this
first. I'm pretty sure it was Liiv SANDBOX that did this the last time I casted too, was whatever they said back on them. And also that team didn't trash talk, so it's like 2 whiffs, man. You're at strike 2. So we get a look here at the speed track list. Liiv with the priority here in speed mode. We'll be picking Terracotta Twister as map number 1, one of the new maps, WKC Japan Circuit.
Yeah, I mean, Zigzag Timberland, also one of those tracks that you see Liiv SANDBOX pick all the time and have a lot of success on. And then New York Rally, I talk about this all the time as a map that I really think that Neil in particular, but Liiv SANDBOX have been great on. So really don't see anything out of the ordinary here, but picking Japan circuit here as AURAvs is very rarely left open is interesting. We'll see what they have planned here. It's a track that we almost never see actually so far here in preseason 2. It's just been banned a lot.
Yep, and it looks like we're getting ready to go into track number 1, Wolf, as we're going to see Liiv SANDBOX face off against Aura here on Terracotta Twister to start off the day.
Off we go in this heated matchup between Aura and Liiv SANDBOX, starting as we often do on Terracotta Twister.
Yeah, one of my favorite maps for sure here at the KDL, as it looks like Aura off to a really good start. Definitely prioritizing the team boost here right from the gate, as Hero especially was highlighting that, doing so many cut drifts to try and build up that meter as best he can. And I mean, that extra blue boost that they're getting, Looning is just feasting on that.
He really is, and he and Nock now trying to control the top 2 spots. This is the Aura trademark, as Liiv SANDBOX have been so good at catching up from behind, so that's kind of the dichotomy of these 2 team styles. But Hyunsu is really preventing Nock from occupying that second spot right now, regardless. With Neil in that last place spot, Aura do have control right now, and Nock, he is really trying to force this. It's basically a 2v1 against Hyunsu. Byungsu trying to do some aggressive inners here to catch up.
Yeah, now with Nock getting a little bit closer there on the tail of Hyunsu, it should be Aura's fight here in rank number 1 as they're looking to try and get back into that 1-2 position as we enter lap number 2 here on Terracotta Twister. A bit of a collision there as Looning does fall back. Now it's Nock and Hero here for Aura, still trying to contest Hyunsu, and he's gaining ground, and oh no, Byungsu with a rare blunder there.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. I mean, that might actually cost them the race here, as it's still possible if Jimin can actually cut through here and get into that second place spot. I think that is really your win condition now as Liiv SANDBOX, but Nock and Hero, they know this. Going to block him out and seize. Also trying to make an aggressive play here. They need something to happen so badly right now.
Yeah, Hero able to work his way into first place there is, oh, that's some really tight lines there on the corner, but luckily everyone able to navigate that correctly. And here we go, only about 500 meters left.
And Jimin and Hyunsu trying to push for that 1-2 finish. It looks like they have done it. Yeah. 200 meters.
Looking really good for LSB, as despite Byungsu's, rare blunder right there, partway through lap number 2, able to deliver the 1-2 finish. We're Hyunsu and Jimin for Liiv SANDBOX, so track number 1 will go LSB's way. But man, that was a scary track for them.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, there was also that blunder there for the side of Aura where we had that collision right before Byungsu's, and that was what started making it look like Liiv SANDBOX have this one in the bag themselves, because they had 3 of those top 4 spots. But then Byungsu made his own error, ends up finishing significantly there at the back in 8th place. But I gotta say, this is one of my reasons why, the reasons why I really love the 1-2 finish being a win condition, because it means that if your team makes one huge mistake like this, you can actually still win if your top 2 players can play basically perfectly and navigate those final moments, as we saw here from Liiv SANDBOX. And that's the power of knowing your win conditions here, and they played it brilliantly there at the end. So watch this collision one more time.
Yeah, Byungsu a little bit too tight there, clips that, and then also hits Neil on the flank, losing so much momentum. But this was the critical play here for LSB, as Jimin was able, with that tighter line, able to just barely eclipse Hero there, deliver the win, as for a long time, with Looning and Hero, and also Nock contesting that rank 1, rank 2 position for the majority of lap number 1 and then the beginning of lap number 2. I was thinking Aura would have a chance, but instead Liiv SANDBOX able to fight back, deliver the 1-2 finish, and now we're getting ready to go to Japan circuit. Liiv SANDBOX with a 1-0 lead. And off we go on WKC Japan circuit, Aura looking to tie things up 1-1.
Yeah, let's see how Japan circuit shakes out, as a lot of these tracks here in our World Kart circuit have been very wide open. I think that, based on my impressions here so far of Japan, it's a little bit more tight. You're not going to be able to off-road as much or take some, off-road shortcuts. You do have to kind of stick to the track, but there's a large amount of space here, and it's a pretty smooth track with not a lot of hairpins or anything like that, no tight corners. So it is pretty much about trying to get an early lead here, as Hero has done, and then maintain it, because it's very difficult to pass.
Yeah, and right there behind Hero for a long time, LSB was holding on to the next 4 positions, but Looting able to throw a wrench into LSB's plans now. As Aura looking to get back into form here with the 1-2 finish. Looting right now behind Byungsu as we enter lap number 2. Still a lot of track left to be played, but Byungsu here for LSB doing such a good job of holding on. I mean, we're looking here at Jimin all the way in the back ranks, but you can just barely see Byungsu, locking Hero at every turn.
Yeah, he's doing a good job of that so far. Hero, again, there's not a whole lot of angles you could take when you're close up here if you're outnumbered as Hero. You really just have to avoid collisions and then hope that you could take an outer and then avoid Byungsu's block. And he's done a good job of it, actually, now regaining that first place spot here, but Liiv SANDBOX in firm control as we move into this 3rd and final lap. And something needs to change here for Aura, as now there's opportunities for Neil and Jimin to create a lot of disruption. As, man, look at these tight turns here for Byungsu and Hyunsu.
Yeah, and once again, the 1-2 finish here in the cards for both Liiv SANDBOX and Aura, as it's going to be hotly contested in lap number 3. Hero and Nock trying their best to disrupt this as well as they can, but Hyunsu doing a fantastic job zoning out Nock. He knows that Liiv SANDBOX, with their position, have a nice spot of securing the win. Only 500 meters left to go, Wolf.
It's about that first place spot right now. We keep swapping it as Aura making a big push, and I think they're going to do it, crushing this one. 1-2 coming through. Final push there, so critical. And it looks like the Team Nitro usage actually just enough to maintain that top spot there for Hero. And ENCs do end up taking it as Byungsu feeling the pressure, trying to take a more aggressive line there. He and Jimin as well, kind of falling back behind. The 1-2 does come through, but Aura on this relatively new track, right? This relatively unexplored track, very commonly banned since it is so new, will be able to take this one as Ding, the previous record holder, will actually have his record broken by Hero this game around.
Yeah, Hero breaking the record, and I love that inner line that C's took right in the final turn to secure that 1-2 finish. It felt like he almost came out of nowhere with that boost, just able to manage the timing perfectly, come through in the clutch. Aura delivering a 1-2 finish as both track number 1 and track number 2 were decided by just those top 2 rankings.
Yeah, really bouncing back in a good way here. And Aura has been a team that was often defined by their item mode success, but we saw in playoffs there's a lot more to this team, there's a lot more to this roster, and here in Preseason 2 they are making waves. They have tied us up 1-1. We'll see which one of these teams will take the lead as we move into our 3rd track of Forest, Zigzag Timberland. Off we go here, tied 1 apiece, as a great start here from Aura on Zigzag, occupying the top 3 spots.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what happened there, but Aura was able to get a fantastic position here with knocking Hero in 1 and 2, and then C's with so much boost, able to shore up the flank, and we've seen time and time again on Zigzag Timberland, usually the team that gets the better start is able to maintain that position throughout the majority of the race, as it can be so hard to pass in these tight corners, and sweeping can also be so effective. It's very precarious, Wolf.
Yeah, exactly. And such a narrow track like this makes it difficult to pass because sweeping is effective, because it's going to push your opponents into corners here as Looning tries to make an attempt of it. He wants to collide with Jimin and Neil as much as possible here as they occupy these 1-2 spots. They should be able to win the 2v2 if they can maintain that defensive hold. And you were talking about how difficult it is to pass. You can see there's not a lot of opportunities here for Hyunsu, even with some aggressive drafts, but the jump is good. Can't maintain the lead, though.
Yeah, just not enough momentum there for Hyunsu, is now Looning entering the cards here. Let's see if he does a little bit of sweeping, or if perhaps he takes the pole position and Knocker Hero fall back. So might see a little bit of more team play coming out of Aura, as Hyunsu, he's been battling for that rank 2 position this entire time as we finish lap number 1, and eventually he's able to make the breakaway there with a nice draft line, but Nock and Hero, they're just so tight right now. I don't know if they can hold on to this, but Byungsu coming up their flank.
Yeah, Hero with a huge draft here with the boost tied into it is actually trying to crash his way through here, but it's a 1-2 that Liiv SANDBOX do occupy here. We're almost halfway through the 2nd lap right now. Let's see how good your defense is, Byungsu, here on this roster. If they can hold on to these 2 spots here against Nock, the Super Observer, then they should be able to secure this win. And so far, so good. I mean, they are really holding on to this one tight. And look at Byung-Soo, he's just constantly checking his rears, but Nock breaking through. Liiv SANDBOX still with enough of a lead, though.
Yeah, Nock was able to slip by, and now his eyes are on first place. He's going to see if he can pass Hyunsoo with a critically timed draft, and yes, he does, as now he's going to be the one playing defense, trying to zone out these remaining players for LSB, as the points are so close right now. Every single position matters as we enter the latter portion of lap number 2.
That first place spot is so critical. It's the one that's deciding everything right now, and Hyunsoo is going to occupy it for now as we move into this final 300 meters. Passed by Nock, though.
Yeah, Nock able to get that pole position, and that's going to be Aura converting it into a win just by a hair. Nock was able to supplant Hyunsoo there for first place with some nicely timed drafting, excellent boosting.
And this is the player who sees the game differently than everybody else, Nock. He is able to see these tight windows. He's able to predict exactly the angle at which Liiv SANDBOX is going to take some of these turns. And to make it happen against Byung-Soo and Hyunsoo, right? The new addition for Liiv SANDBOX, but then Hyunsoo is really the leader of this team right now. That's impressive. And we talked about so much about how it's difficult to go through those narrow points on the track where when you turn, if you make that risky call and you end up colliding with that racer, it's going to be you who loses out. You're going to then hit the wall, and recovery is almost impossible. You might even drop back to 8th with a play like that, but Nock, he just threads the needle quite literally, and he did it like 3 times. There at the final moments, and Aura really relying on this guy, and it's, you know, I guess a less popular player, but man, he made a huge impact.
Yeah, well now Aura, 1 map win away from securing the first speed victory here against Liiv SANDBOX. Let's see if they can do it here in track number 4. We're going to WKC Brazil Circuit. And here we go on the Brazilian circuit as Aura looking to get the nice start they did on the previous track. Nock already off to a fantastic start, man. He has been a killer today. And oh, who was that on Liiv SANDBOX with a bad collision on the tires?
It was Hyunsoo. Looks like here is maintaining that 8th place spot. We might get a zoom out on the map to see where he's at. Yeah. He did fall back there pretty significantly, and that's really unfortunate. Now, at least on this track, you could take some really aggressive pushes through the grass, and if there's no one to collide with you, if you use your boost correctly, you can catch up pretty quickly. This track is almost the exact opposite of our previous one, and that it's very wide open, and because it's so wide open, passes can be possible, but it comes at the real cost of your boost gauge, right? So making sure that your team has the amount of nitro required to actually use those aggressive grass cuts is exactly what these teams are going to be looking for. Right now, Season Nock holding 1 and 2 here, and they vastly outnumber the Liiv SANDBOX players here.
Yeah, and as we see the picture-in-picture, Hyunsoo is doing everything in his power to try and close the distance and, you know, provide some support here for Liiv SANDBOX, who desperately need it with Nock, Season Looting holding on to 3v1 here in the top 4 standings. I mean, Neil, to his credit, he's doing everything in his power to hold on to that pole position and try and secure a win condition where he finishes in first and Liiv SANDBOX has the middle ranks, but it is just not going their way right now.
Neil is so smart, though. He stays on the right side of the track there, loses some speed and momentum, but can use his boosts where he's not going to have any collision and prevents the enemy team from playing defense, and actually gets up into the first place spot, which will give Liiv SANDBOX currently enough points to actually win this race as we move into the final one. Neil is just such a smart player. He finds the right builds, he adapts to the situation. And once again, he's done that here. 1 and 2 now occupied by Liiv SANDBOX.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with the lines coming out of Byung-Soo so far. He's taking these corners so tight, just has the perfect read on exactly how to thread the needle and secure that win. Now is Liiv SANDBOX in the lead, coming here to the finish line. Byung-Soo still holding on to first place. He will secure it, and it's actually going to be a 1-2 finish here for LSB. So despite that early mistake by Hyunsoo hitting the tires, and Liiv SANDBOX basically playing a 3v4 there for the majority of that track, they were still able to deliver a 1-2 finish with some very creative, very aggressive lines.
Yeah, I really like how Neil, I mean, he's just proven time and time again he's a player who will come back from behind. He will find the right angles. He'll do exactly what his team needs to do in every situation, and this was no exception at all. And the way that he was able to pass them was actually taking the separate right side track, which will always cost you a little bit of speed. But if you're able to use that nitro effectively and get ahead, that's the most important part. And then you can open up them trying to attack you, which allows Byung-Soo to then catch up. And it was just a team effort here on the side of Liiv SANDBOX. This series is really delivering right now, as we will see that. Oh, yeah. Hitting it at that angle, that is really rough.
That's about as bad as it gets, as we see a little bit of another collision there. Oh, actually, Hero and Looting both took a ton of damage. That's why Hyunsu was able to move up the ranks there from 8th place into 7th, I think, at the end of that track, as now we're all tied up, Wolf. 2-2 here. This final track is going to decide it.
Yeah, now this is speed priority. It's Liiv SANDBOX's track, a one that they have historically been very good at. World Tour, New York Rally. Let's find out which one of these teams is going to take speed mode. Off we go on our final track here of Speed. Liiv SANDBOX still undefeated in this mode this season. See if they can maintain that here. But Aura is looking fierce tonight.
Yeah, Aura, you can just see how much this team has improved from KDL Preseason 1 to KDL Preseason 2. With this addition like Looning, with the better synergy we're seeing from their players at the top ranks, is even when they can't get the 1-2 win condition, they are contesting it, man. It's been so close every single track, but now here in track number 5, Liiv SANDBOX once again in a commanding position here at the top with Hyunsu, and Jimin all holding on to the top 3 ranks, and I love this zoning we're seeing from Hyunsu. He's just barely colliding there with Nok, not letting him get any room to maneuver.
Oh man, and unfortunately Looting colliding there with his teammate as well. He and Nok running into each other, which creates a further lead here. So now Hyunsu is in perfect sweeper position here. Even though this isn't often his role, he can absolutely play it here for Liiv SANDBOX right now, as Seas and Looning are going to pass him. You know, he's not as experienced as a sweeper as he is a front runner, and this is actually going to be a weakness here at Liiv SANDBOX. They don't actually really get a much defense out of this. Still occupying those first 2 spots, a single lap track here, but a little bit of a crack showing. Let's see if Seas and Looning can capitalize on it. They need to so desperately.
Got some nice, low-risk maneuvers there by Hyunsu. Not really wanting to play his hand too much, because this is sweeping position is something he has a little bit less experience with, but still doing a good job of threatening and also causing some disruptions here on Aura is Jimin and Byungsu still holding on to those top 2 positions. Looting is going to try and close the distance, but I don't think he's going to have enough speed, as Liiv SANDBOX will remain undefeated here in speed mode, winning 3-2 over Aura in a nail-biter of a match.
It really was very close. The final track, though, completely controlled by Byungsu and Jimin, and Neil, who often sits back in the later ranks on this track and then makes a push to the end and tries to create a lot of problems for the team when that we get close to the finish line those last 500 meters. Didn't even need to do it. He finishes in 8th place, but it doesn't ultimately matter here for Liiv SANDBOX. A lot of the camera time was spent on Neil because he does often make those late pushes. He's actually 3 seconds behind Nok here in the finish time. Might have taken his hands off the wheel just simply because he knows that they won with the 1-2. But ultimately, man, once again, Liiv SANDBOX come out on top on speed. Aura was so close against KWANGDONG last week, so close against Liiv SANDBOX here in speed, but it's just not enough to cross the finish line. And I have to say as well, I need to give credit where it's due. Jimin has really stepped up for this roster in a big way. It was the item ace. He proved himself in solos. The team gave him a chance to be part of the main roster, and he really has come in, day out, and proven that he can hang with the best of them. He's not just the item guy. Now, who is just the item guy is Tech. Now, this guy is arguably our best item ace in the KDL. And I think that his power has been nerfed slightly in terms of this patch, because he was the timing guy. He was the guy who likes to push hard for those late finishes. And now it's more tempo-based. He's like, yeah, Dalda fighting.
Dalda's in. Good luck, team. Yeah, Neil getting swapped out here as a speed specialist will be replaced by Dalda. And yeah, I love what you're saying there about Aura, man. I mean, the Noctech duo in particular are just historic here in Kartrider, even going back to Kartrider League in years bygone when they used to play for the FREECS, as they were just that dynamic duo that you would want to send out any single time you're playing an item mode. And they were a big part of why this team succeeded in KDL Preseason 1 in item, but as you noted, with the changes in the meta, with the new balances and attack being more of the strategic play here in KDL Preseason 2, it hasn't really been going their way. There's still a little bit of an adjustment period here for Aura, but we'll see here with map priority whether they will be able to take this to an ace match.
Yeah, let's take a look at the tracks chosen here. As once again Sphinx's Riddle, I believe Aura actually picked this against KWANGDONG as well. Then Polar Halfpipe and then Motherlode, so we won't actually see them pick up London Knight. It's actually Liiv SANDBOX who will do that. So we're going to see a pretty crazy track list, to be honest here. We're not going to Cogwheel Crush. Shark's Wake is also a track that we've spent a lot of time talking about this preseason too so far, has just been kind of a item spam fest. There's not a lot of aspects of the track itself where you have a lot of architecture that you're operating around. There's not a lot of turns. It's really just like, all right, throw those items out and constantly be fighting. It's basically a team fight track. So that one's gone, taken away by Liiv SANDBOX.
Yeah, I feel like even if we were playing with the KDL Preseason 1 rule set on the previous patch, it would still turn into that team fight with how high the rotation of the items is on Shark's Wake. But we'll have to see what happens should we get there to track number 5. Instead, we're going to be starting out here in track number 1 on Desert Sphinx's Riddle, or needing to win item mode to go to an ace match. And here we go on Desert Sphinx's Riddle. Both these teams so far have been struggling a little bit with this new meta and item mode coming over from KDL Preseason 1. I think Liiv SANDBOX, although they have historically always been, that speed mode team, much like the FREECS.
Yeah,
they were good in item mode for a long time in KDL Preseason 1, right? But here in KDL Preseason 2, they're kind of at the same ranks with Aura, where it's about 50-50 whether they're going to win any particular track.
Exactly, and it's kind of like, I think the adaptation period is just going to take a little bit longer here, whereas preparing for Preseason 1, all of these teams were playing on that patch for so long. They can really hone their skills. And it was a skill set that you could adapt even in your solo queue games, because all you had to do was actually hold those items and then push to first place, right? And now it's about communication. It's about how you're going to use your items to actually try to block out that first place position. And a lot of the time now in item mode, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the meta and about like what's being held in those first 2 laps, and a little bit about who's getting hit more than we used to, because we used to be okay, who's got magnet, who's got boost, who's actually pushing through. But now lightning, much more impactful, EMP, much more impactful. Hyunsu doesn't have one, so we'll be eating that UFO here. Still maintaining first place, avoids that bomb.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot more complicated here with this new rule set, and a lot more aggressive also, as we see many missiles coming out, and also water wisps attacking Jimin and Hyunsu, the lead racers here for Liiv SANDBOX's Aura, is looking to gain ground. And we have occasionally seen one racer try to pull away from the pack and just stack up shield after shield after shield, as we were talking about before the show even started today. Not really seeing that here so far on Sphinx's Riddle.
Yeah, it hasn't really been that successful. Instead, what we're seeing is a lot of protection here for Hyunsu from the rear. As you can see, he's eating a lot of damage, but a lot of the time it's further attacks behind him as the team's trying to support him from behind that way. So he actually pulls ahead, and because he's holding 2 lightnings here, he's definitely not the one they want to have in first place, because double lightning has become more common on this patch, and you want to use that to support your team. And in fact, they have triple with looning here as well. So you need to push somebody into that first place spot though, and it's going to be Tech, it looks like, who's got double boost. And this is such a crazy combo. Double lightning, first one to come out, second one comes out, and he's got boost. Here he goes.
Yep, the lightnings pop, and then here come the boost, and Take with so much speed. Feels like we're watching speed mode right there. The double nitrous, the wombo combo coming out of Aura, as praying to the item gods. I guess it worked this time, because that was perfection. They had so many lightnings in the bag, and even though it was Tech that finished there in first place, even I think it might have been Knock on the rear. It was another player on Aura who also had a magnet and a nitrous.
So Tech has 2 nitros. They have a defensive magnet. I don't know who used it, but somebody's pulling Jimin back. So Jimin's trying to boost through as well. He's getting pulled back. They're stacking those lightnings together all at the same time while Tech is prepped for the double nitro. He knows that he's got this window. He's stacked it up. And this is the kind of play from Tech, right? He's actually found a timing using the defensive items here and the lightning to actually do basically magnet rush in this meta. He's figured it out. They had the right tools, and this feels like peak item mode Aura, what we saw on this first track.
Yeah, that was so cool. And I also loved keeping the player that had 2 lightnings in the front of the pack to eat aggro for as long as they did, because, maybe Liiv SANDBOX is thinking that's going to be the racer who's going to try and make a breakaway, but instead Aura, with a subversion, they're able to come through. Let's see if they can repeat that performance as we move on to track number 2. It will be World Tour London Night.
Off we go, Aura, bringing back some of that item mode magic that we saw in Preseason 1. See if Liiv SANDBOX can tie things up here as we move into London. And London, a track that has a lot of different paths. You can take a lot of shortcuts, and it's definitely very tricky in this meta.
Yeah, it is a complicated track, especially because it plays a little bit to the beat of its own drum with that final closing stretch towards the finish line. There's that one turn you got to watch out for. There's the Ferris wheel, as we're seeing right now, and there are a lot of plays that can be made right here that can be hard to read when you're in the game going up against your opponent. Is exactly what they have planned.
Ooh, that barricade was pretty slick.
Yeah, that was a nice barricade there popping.
Yeah, if you can actually barricade on a turn like that, it's very hard to aim it correctly, but if you do that, it's definitely going to catch somebody off guard. Hyunsu will EMP that UFO and actually push into first here. He's also holding now 2 shields, picks up a second one so he can block that. He's trying to get that tempo advantage we were talking about. You get a lot of shields and bananas in first. He is going to drop that banana down now and maybe pick up another shield here, dodge the barricade. He's doing a great job of maintaining that lead, and I mean, now he's got a bunch of teammates to defend him too, and they have double Angel on top of this. He's got EMP.
Yeah, but there are already 3 lightnings on the field right now for Aura, so I'm going to be really interested in seeing whether they decide to cycle any of those out, because it kind of feels reminiscent previously, because Tech,
He's got the double boost again.
once again has the double boost. Knock right now, he's the lead racer, at least for now, as C's does pass him with a lightning. But look, Knock and C's, they both only have lightnings. Their role here is to eat aggro and allow Tech to try and close the distance and get into a position where he can just do the Hail Mary play.
He's got the double nitro set up. He's in first. Here comes the lightning. But G-Man actually with the Angel here is going to be able to avoid that first one. And we need to see another one come out here. I mean, we're still in the final lap here. There's a lot more space to go, but Tech dropping back a little bit, no longer has those boosts.
Yeah, final lightning does get popped as we're now only 300 meters away. Boosts are out of the bag right now, and it looks like Liiv SANDBOX Dalda, although the UFO abducts him, does have enough momentum to carry him across the finish line as Aura, excuse me, it felt like they had all the tools in their tool belt, but the positioning on the track just wasn't there to actually make the play. Take was a little bit too far back to really get use out of the double nitro.
Yeah, he was boosting basically into a pack of players, and that's the part of the track too where you start to hit those turns before you go into the weird ramps and stuff like that. So it's hard to actually, there's no like straightaway for him to go, all right, I'm just going to take a long outer or go diagonally away from that pack and speed through during the lightning. And the first lightning is absorbed by that Angel, and then that's when G-Man pushes through and gets massively ahead, and then they had enough of a momentum lead from there. It's still the same game plan as we saw on the first track. I think just much harder to pull off on London Night.
Yeah, it's definitely the track that I think, out of the 5 that we've picked, is going to favor this strategy the least. And the fact that Aura went for it yet again makes me think that this is the meta that's been working for them, you know, in their in-house lobbies, in their scrims, as they've been practicing for this match heading into, you know, what is going to be inevitably one of the pivotal matches of this tournament for them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you can take this series off of Liiv SANDBOX, you're going to be in a great position to potentially catapult yourself into those finals, as you're all tied up now 1-1, getting ready to go to track number 3. It will be Glacier Polar Halfpipe. The race continues on here on Glacier Polar Halfpipe. Aura sees hanging back a little bit, trying to get a little more items in his bag, provide some support for his team. As
some failed barricades here.
Yeah.
You wanted to cycle those out as quickly as possible. I mean, more effective on some of the narrow parts of this track, obviously, but still using it at this point. A little bit ineffective as Byung-Soo nearly took a swim.
Yeah, I was surprised by that one, man. That looked really scary. I didn't realize it was going to be so close, but instead just like in a bouncy castle, basically just jumps back into the sky and continues on now as Jimin with double shield will be leading the charge here for Liiv SANDBOX, pulling away a little bit from the pack. He should be able to eat a good amount of aggro here from Aura's players.
Yeah, it is, of course, used both of those shields, picks up a banana and a shield, will toss that banana out early. Going to maintain that shield banana, avoided here by the members of Aura, as the UFO will actually connect with Looning, allows him to pass for just a second to eat that. And Hyunsu, 2 boosts here in the front, but we're only on the 2nd lap, so see how he just chooses to use those. Once again, Aura just keeps picking up these lightnings. They have one on C's who's at the front here, so this is ideal if they want to try to make that setup happen again. But they just don't have the numbers of lightning this time around that they've had the last 2 tracks, so I think they're going to have to do something a little bit different here.
Yeah, we'll see exactly what happens. There still is 1 more lap left to go, as a lot of these items just getting rotated out. Just CC's holding onto that 1 lightning, does have a nitrous, which I imagine he will also be rotating out, trying to get a double lightning or perhaps an angel shield to help support his players. And On Liiv SANDBOX side of things, a lot of defense. They have double Angel Shield here on Jimin. Byung-Soo in the lead right now, just continuously rotating through these shields as he tries to absorb the aggro.
There's a lot of aggressive items here for Aura, though. I don't think he can hold this lead here anymore. He's going to have one more shield, but there's Wisp, bombs here. He's going to get UFO, doesn't have an EMP, and this is the most important moment, the final part of the third lap here. So, what?
Oh my goodness! It's a catastrophe. So many racers falling into the water there as Dalda now leading the charge, as well as Hyunsoo on this shortcut. So they are so far away from the rest of the pack. Dalda just speeding along. He does have an EMP in his bag, but not much more than that, as Hyunsoo now eating some aggro, even coming through with a block there on Knock, picks up a rocket, so Dalda will have a clear stretch to reach that finish line. And Liiv SANDBOX, I mean, that double shortcut. Two players going up the shortcut, one eats aggro, one just full sends it. Perfect.
That was really well played by Dalda, and I think we kind of missed it on camera, so I hope we get to go back and see it. But he was clearly, as you say, like trying to get up onto that high ground, and then you have the opportunity to attack from two different angles there. All the while, some chaos happens on the lower bridge where somebody got hit by, I think, a rocket, and while they were spinning, they like knocked people off, and that actually really hurt the momentum of Aura, because Aura looked like they had enough attacking items there to actually maintain their advantage and then continue to push through. They didn't expect the shortcut. They didn't expect the chaos to happen there on the low ground. There's like two things I want to see. I want to see both like what really went down and why those players fell off, as well as the push there on the top, the upper part of the track, the shortcut. We may see both or we may see neither. It's not up to me, guys, but those things looked a little bit unclear, and I'm not sure if we'll get a replay or not. But at the end of the day, it is going to be Liiv SANDBOX taking the lead here, now moving to match point.
Yeah, match point, just one track win away from securing a 2-0 win here against Aura. I mean, they've been looking good, and yeah, we are going to get this replay. So this is when Byung-Soo gets abducted here, and then Tech tries to come in, and I think it actually
weird landing there.
Yeah,
It looks like just landed awkwardly.
I don't know exactly.
While in lightning, maybe like it's hard to say, because the lightning animation kind of bugged out there if they were actually being lightning, because it looked like the lightning animation was starting, and maybe they then lost the speed they needed to make the jump. Bizarre scenario.
I'm not sure exactly
Car
what
ride
went
is crazy.
down. Yeah, item mode especially is very crazy, as now it's match point. Liiv SANDBOX one track win away from sending us home with a victory here over Aura. Can they pull it off on Village Town Hall?
Off we go. Liiv SANDBOX with a win in speed mode, and that second win in item here, meaning they are on match point. One more win here will win this series for them 2-0.
Love Liiv SANDBOX is Jimin just slowing down to try and get two boxes and still only getting one there on the flank.
Yeah, it happens sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
Happens to all of us. As that's going to be a double right there. Got to take that angle to get both boxes. Do what the pros do, and you too at home will get two items instead of one. And as you can see, Tech falling 100 meters behind here of Byung-Soo. They have an Angel to protect him.
Yeah, Liiv SANDBOX actually has a ton of defensive items right now. Dalda holding on to two Angel Shields. Byung-Soo with an Angel Shield himself, as well as that solo shield, absorbing a lot of aggro as another one gets popped. As we enter lap number 2 here, and all this defense here for Liiv SANDBOX means that Aura is just going to continuously cycle through these aggro items. And
Byung-Soo's lead continues to grow. Now, we have seen this strategy fail, though, in a lot of our races where you get a massive lead like this, but eventually just get burned down. Now, these lightnings will be denied by double Angels. They burn both Angels here, but the Byung-Soo lead is so significant. You can see it on the track map here. Look at how far away Dalda is with Jimin now playing defensively, and then know that Byung-Soo is even further ahead than that. You saw him go around that corner here. Look at him on the map. He's now already in his third lap. He has got to be like 400 meters ahead.
It's one of the biggest pullaways we've seen here.
It's a 3-second lead
so far.
from C's. So I mean, from Dalda, I think probably about a second and a half at least. And I mean, this is the strategy that very rarely works, but he's got shields for the lightning.
And the attacks just keep coming in here on the players for Aura that are trying to close the distance.
He's got enough rockets, but he's not in range.
Yeah,
okay, one more.
Also gets slowed down here as Byung-Soo just continues to rotate through those shields. Also now has an EMP, so he cannot get abducted by that UFO. And we might just see Byung-Soo run away with this one, Wolf.
Oh, man, he's magneted, and it doesn't matter. He's got Dalda on his side, but C's, though. C's pushed ahead for a second.
That lead is getting closer and closer, only 100 meters left to go. Water Wisp does come in, and it connects with Knock, and it's closer than we thought it might be, but still, at the end of the day, Byung-Soo able to convert that massive massive lead from the start of lap number 3 into a round win as Liiv SANDBOX is going to 2-0 Aura here, but I gotta say, man, it felt a lot closer than that.
Yeah, it really did feel like a very close series, and this is, unfortunately for Aura, the story of how the regular season has gone against these Titans, defending champions in Africa, now against Liiv SANDBOX, just falling a little bit short, as Byung-Soo, he had a massive lead, they defended him, he constantly rolled shields, and we've seen a lot of teams actually defeat this eventually on that third and final lap. Aura almost were able to do it, but not quite, as the defensive setup was just too good there in the final moments. But I think also this strategy is especially good against a team like Aura that's more timing-oriented with their pushes to try to win rather than tempo-based or trying to push somebody out into lead. That's never been Tech's style. That's never been how this team likes to play. And, you know, I think SANDBOX here, they saw an opportunity. They took a risk. They were up a game in the series. They're like, let's just do that one-man army. Let's defend the carry style of play here on Item. And we don't really have a term for this, actually, but it is a strategy that's becoming more and more prevalent. Maybe we call it one-man army. I don't know what we're going to call it. We'll call it something better than that, but it is a style that can work. Hasn't worked much, but we've seen a lot of teams try, and the SANDBOX having, in my opinion, the first real success we've seen.
Yeah, but they did bleed a little bit there in speed mode. So far, they were undefeated not only in speed sets, but also in rounds, and Aura brought that one all the way to match point. So props to Aura for that, as they continue to look better and better here in KDL Preseason 2. Only time will tell if they can really stand against these Titans once they reach that postseason, as it still feels like, despite this loss here to Liiv SANDBOX, if they can continue to perform at this level, I feel like they are destined to reach that top 4 spot.
I think so too, and I think that when we move into postseason too, if Aura make it there, which right now, I mean, it's possible they do not, but based on what we're seeing in the eye test, I think it seems very likely. They've had a very tough strength of schedule as well, playing against both Liiv SANDBOX and KWANGDONG this early into the season. I think they're probably going to make it, but I think when you move to the format of postseason, where it's a much longer series that you're going to play, where you end up moving those best of 5s into best of 7s, I think that Aura will look better there, as they did in preseason 1. So there's definitely a pretty big chance here, as Insu and Hyunsu fan there saying, I'm an Insu fan, but now I've got the Hyunsu jacket, as Insu's taken a hiatus, of course, in military.
Yeah, but I do like what we're seeing out of Aura a lot here, and I feel like over the course of KDL Preseason 2, as we have a number of weeks left to play here, we're going to continue to see the item mode strategies kind of develop the same way that we saw them develop in KDL Preseason 1. And
Yeah.
Aura, especially with the Noct Tech duo, you just kind of feel like inevitably they will get back to a level where it's difficult for other teams to really contest them here in item mode.
Yeah, I think that it takes time to adapt on patches. I think this patch doesn't have necessarily a dominant strategy, which is a good thing, and teams will figure out their own way, their own flair, and that's what I'm looking forward to, especially in item, because it's a what do I call this? A mode, I guess, where there's so much variance, right? There is an element of RNG, but there's also an element of control. That's why teams are still winning consistently on it. It's not about what items you pick up; it's how you use them. But what I've been most impressed by is Aura's improvement in speed. And that was something we saw in postseason, and that's just always going to be a big threat. It also means that their players are going to do better in their solo matches, for example, in the future too. So becoming a real powerhouse team. Love the new jerseys. Love the new attitude they're bringing here to KDL PS2.
Yeah, they're showing that they can hang in speed with the best of them, and that was always their weak point in KDL Preseason 1. So if they can shore up that item mode, I mean, who knows? We might have Aura getting another top 3 here.
We are, of course, done with only our first of 3 here tonight. We will have coming up after a short break, Sensation versus Seongnam ROX. We'll see you then.
Ain't nobody stopping me. nobody stopping me. Ain't nobody stopping me. Nobody stopping me. Ain't nobody stopping me.
여덟 명이서 달릴 때랑 1대1의 분들이 좀 느낌이 달라요. 초반 스타트를 내줘도 오히려 뒤쪽에서 과감하게 승부를 걸 수 있다라는 장점이 있기 때문에
이렇게 순식간에 숨막히는 승부를 약간 흔들어 빌월드.
라인이 없는 구간이었거든요. 저 구간이 최대한 탄력을 붙여야 되는. 근데 썸머가 회복이 나쁘지가 않아요.
그렇죠. 이 빌드를 타면 그 다음부터 드랩거리로 접근할 수 있죠.
허접한데요, 썸머.
순식간에 왔습니다.
이야,
일단은
아이, 좋았는데요.
좋았는 여기가 뭐 걸렸는데 이러면 월드 실수를 약간 바랄 수밖에 없는 상황인데.
네, 여기서 걸리지 않았으면 바로 이 구간에서 드리프트가 걸리면서 쫓아갈 수 있었을 텐데 지금은 뭡니다.
자, 결국 월드 그대로 들어갈 수 있을 때 마지막에 피날레는 월드.
이 드리프트에서는 이 앞쪽 또 포지션에서 깜짝 스탑이 워낙 상대가 방심하는 틈에 들어갈 수 있는데 그러한 것들을 월드 선수가 잘 알고 있었고 그러니까 앞 포지션을 잡으면서 주도권을 가져가는 게 중요한 에이스 결정전이거든요. 정말 노련했어요. 그러면서 전승 행진을 이어나갑니다. 한 명 한 명 오히려 지금 공략을 당해버리면서 점점 뒤쳐지고 있기 때문에 스펠과의 거리 차이가 좀 많이 나기 시작했어요. 그리고 띵이 올라가고 있습니다.
그래도 방금 전에 띵이 부스터 발동시킬 때 몬스터가 몸으로 막아주는 부분은 굉장히 좋았습니다만 혼자서는 2명, 3명 못 막죠.
상당히 그렇습니다. 이번엔 띵이 다른 역할들을 좀 해주고 있는 상황에서 스펠과 쫑이 올라가고 있어요. 또 이렇게.
야, 순간적으로 가속받았을 때 앞 포지션 잡고 그 다음에 뒤쪽을 한 번 더 막아주면 안 된다 싶으니까 다시 한번 몬스터 쪽으로 바라보는 띵이거든요.
그리고 쫑은 스펠의 주행을 방해하지 않으면서 적성거리를 유지하고 있는데 이거 두치가 이런 식으로 막아주면 앞쪽이 뚫리더라도 뒤쪽에서 순위가 다져지지를 못하겠네요.
야, 벌크업된 광산 수레를 정말 기가 막히게 활용을 하고 있습니다. 그 사이에 스펠은 1위 유지합니다. 이렇게 달릴 줄 아는 선수의 스펠도.
이게 포지셔닝이 한번 되고 나니까요. 1대1 싸우면 거의 무조건 가져가고요. 뭐 1대2 싸움도 버티고 있다 보니까 원투가 잡히지 않고 또 공략당했어요.
날아갑니다.
퍼펙트 포지션.
띵도 살짝 걸리긴 했었는데 그 전까지의 과정이 너무 좋았습니다.
그냥 쭉쭉 가져 스펠 띵.
와,
두째까지.
두치가 또 막아냈어요.
광산수의 역할들을 좀 다르게 봐야겠네요. 그 역할을 두찌가 해줬고 결국 이렇게 1, 2, 3, 4 완벽한 포지션.
두찌가 포지션 변경 이후에 가장 완벽하게 블로킹, 스위핑을 해낸 경기라고 볼 수가 있겠고 중간중간에 띵을 플레이해서 위험 구간에서 속도를 줄여주면서 상대방에게 역전을 당하더라도 그 다음 공격 타이밍을 노리는 장면도 수도 없이 나왔거든요. 단순히 잘 달리는 선수뿐만 아니라 정말 상황에 따라서 민첩하게 반응할 줄 아는 선수라는 생각이 듭니다.
신현 선수가 조금 거리가 좀 많이 나는 상황이기 때문에 좀 더 빠르게 합류해줘야 될 것 같고 너무 뒤에 있다 보니까 불차가 나오거든요.
이거 막아내면서 갑니다.
네. 물거리가 아직까지는 약간 애매한 상황이기는 한데 그래도 이런 식으로 되면 물거리까지는 왔거든요.
지금 넣기에는 그렇죠. 올라갈 때거나 근데 너무 빨리 합류해버려서 이러면 그냥 물 버리는 게 낫지 않나 싶어요.
또 돌아왔어요 띵.
이거 락스가 앞쪽으로 가더라도 우주선이 바로 들어갈 수 있겠고
물풍선 저거 왜 이래요? 왜 이렇게 많아요?
페이지가 지금 같은 팀원에 도움을 받기가 어려운 상황이 됐거든요.
아니 갑자기 뭐 버블 파이터예요? 아니 어떻게 된 거예요 지금?
그냥 띵이
아래쪽으로 다
그러면
떨어졌죠.
저기 붙어.
다쳤어요 이번에 좀.
자, 아이템이 들어올게.
완전 백인데 조치가 들어갑니다.
와 핑크로 돌면서 미사일 맞으면서 떨어졌는데 하필이면 그 자리에 바리케이드가 있는 바람에 백스핀 돌았죠.
야 이거 마지막 양상이 너무 다른데요.
예. 이거 멀미하겠네요. 돌다 보니까 완전 맷바퀴 돈 거예요 지금.
근데 호준이 휘말리지 않을까 싶었었는데 정말 차체를 빠르게 잡았습니다.
민식이 굉장히 공격적으로 들어갔었는데 방금 전에 히어로가 조금 한 발 앞서서 앞쪽으로 차체 안 뺐으면 큰일 날 수도 있었습니다.
서로 과감하게 계속 지금 가죠. 왜냐면 오늘 자신 있거든요.
히어로가 오늘 완전 풀린 몸 상태를
네.
보여주고 있는데 호준이 아직까지 안 내주는 가운데 민식 합류 중.
여기를 달리고 있을 때 선수들의 심리는 뒤에 따라온 다른 선수들을 좀비대로 인식을 해야 됩니다. 잘못해가지고 걸어가다가 물리면 진짜 죽는다고 생각을 해야
그리고
되거든요.
나왔는데 어려운 구간에서 히어로 선수가 쇼커팅을 진짜 기가 막히게 넣어주면서 빌드를 만들어가거든요. 그러니까 그만큼 본인 컨트롤에 진짜 자신이 있는 것 같아요.
그래서 이렇게 근데 호준이 노련함으로 막습니다.
이거 맨 마지막에 점프대 구간에
이거
이용이 있으면 재밌겠네요.
돌았죠.
야,
히어로
이거-
또 완전 돌았어요.
야 호준 깜짝 놀라서 사실 호준 크게 휘말린 게 아니었었는데 순위 많이 밀렸습니다.
이러면
이거 민식 드랩
들어왔습니다. 히어로가.
21등.
그러면 호주는 2위를 기록할 수도 있는 상황에서 지금 5위까지 밀린 거니까 속좀 쓰리죠.
그리고 말씀드렸었던 히어로는요. 그러니까 본인 컨트롤에 자신이 있는 것 같아요. 그렇기 때문에 이런 정말 호준이 라이브 로킹 계속 해주면서 뚫기 어려운 상황 속에서 19 스핀턴으로 거기서 그냥 순위를 뚫어내다 보니까 그 경험하는 호준 입장에서도 어쩔 수 없었습니다.
현재까지는 드래프트를 못 받는 거리지만 드래프트 받을 수 있는 거리까지 왔을 때 일만이 자랑하는 사각에서 갑자기 튀어나오면서 상대방이 예상하지 못한 라인으로 진입하는 그런 모습이 나올 수도
여기
있거든요.
직선 구간에서 아마 드래그랑 타임이 좀 잡아내면서 빠르게 좀 붙어서까지 가지 않을까 싶거든요. 이러면 잔디 구간에서는 필연적으로 붙어요.
자 거의 다 왔습니다. 힐이 이렇게 자연스럽게 붙어버렸습니다.
점프하는 직선 구간에서 드랩을 받기 위해서 약간 조절을 했던 딜인데 일단 그래도 붙는 데까지는
길이가
성공하죠.
좀 갈렸어요. 이러면은 일이 좀 과감하게 한번 가볼 수 있나요?
자 부스 하나 더 갖고 있는 상황에서 일의 환경은 뚫어내는 완전히
이거 스탑할까봐 살짝 눈치 본 것 같아요 서로.
그래도 닐이 약간 부스터가 더 유리한 건 변함이 없어요. 맨 마지막에 호준이 긁기라도 하면 굉장히 큰일 수 있습니다.
아주 강하면 직구 한번 가볼 수도 있겠고요. 근데 이거
어떻게?
스탑하면은 모르거든요.
호준이 어떤 타이밍 지금 일단 부서 약간 다른데 여기서
근데 이 라이브 로키 좀 크게 들어갔어요.
저쪽 호준이
자 이거 왼쪽으로 한번 꺾고 오른쪽으로 꺾었을 때
오른쪽에서
라이브 로키 한번 더.
그런데 닐이 끊어요.
더 막아야 될 것 같은데요.
막아야죠.
몸싸움 그리고 마지막에 닐입니다.
호준이 뺐다가 그 다음에 드래프트를 발동시키는 것이 아니라 블로킹하는 선택을 했는데 닐이 끝까지 코스가 길다는 걸 파악하고 있었어요.
마지막 직선 구간에서의 닐이 정말 심리전 싸움에서 이겼다 이렇게 말씀드릴 수가 있겠고 1분 30초를 끌려갔습니다. 그런데 그 마지막 한 번의 기가 막힌 타이밍을 잡아냈어요.
There's still a lot of kart rider left to race tonight, State. We're finished with our first series. It was a 2-0, a close 2-0, mind you, for Liiv SANDBOX. But now we're moving into Sensation, who's going to be walking out on stage here versus Seongnam ROX. So this series also just as close on paper. And I think for Sensation here, they're looking much better in our second preseason than they did in the first, and maybe one of the underdogs.
Oh, absolutely. Despite the the camera with this head, man, to look like it. Despite the fact that they lost speed coming into this KDL preseason, man, they are looking stronger than ever. I feel like the synergy with this team, it's off the charts. Worth noting, by the way, Joker, I believe he was racing as a middle throughout the earlier parts of this KDL preseason. Today, he's changing over that role to a sweeper, so look to see him play a little bit more team-oriented, trying to set up his team, you know, for maybe those 1-2 punches there by colliding with the opponents. And ROX, this is another team that KDL Preseason won. I think every single match that they won was on the back of Jung in the ace match. If I'm not mistaken, it was like all 5 wins or all 4 wins that they had came down to Jung, but
it was because they were not great at item mode, to be honest with you, State. They had a very weak item mode. They ended up going like 0-4 in the early parts of the season, if I recall correctly. But winning speed consistently, then having Jung come out in the ace matches to carry this team has been the way. And this is a team that has such a history, of course, in terms of its esports organization across other games. It's one of the most famous orgs that's been kind of grassroots, right? Now they got a big sponsor in Seongnam, which is a city, of course, here in Korea, just outside of Seoul. So big sponsorship coming through, and we'll see if they can take that extra energy and momentum and roll it forward here. Sensation, on the other hand, their fan signs here a little bit basic, just says Sensation on it. Sometimes basic is good.
Yeah, by the way, about Seongnam, I think it was Peter that told me that he actually is from that area of Seoul, so maybe, or not Seoul, excuse me, of Korea, so he's been cheering for them a little bit more than usual as of late, but really, ROX has been looking so good so far as Sensation tested them. For Sense a fan of Jong, I think we're all fans of Jong after KDL Preseason 1. I mean, what he was able to pull off in the ace matches was something absolutely absurd. As Percent's just like, no, I'm not.
I didn't say that.
I don't know who approved this. I'm going to have to speak to our team coach. Something is wrong.
Who is the submitter of the taunt message? I'm going to have a stern talking to with him.
But, I mean, ROX is just so good. And for all of KDL Preseason 1, it felt like it always came down to Jung. But here in KDL Preseason 2, they're looking way more solid in item mode overall. I think they have a greater than 50% win rate in rounds. Actually, 5-4 overall so far in tracks. So they've been improving a bunch, and this new meta shift has really been favoring their playstyles quite well. And I would be saying a long time ago that, you know, I think that Seongnam ROX is probably going to go to an ace match here against Sensation, and maybe we'll see Jung pull it out. But we might not even get an ace with how strong they've been playing so far.
I heard somebody was eliminated in the solo match prelims. Is that possibly the item ace of your team? Is that possibly him?
ROX throwing a little bit of shade right there.
They
I have
don't
to
have
say,
a designated one, Sensation, in the item ace position. So I guess that's the joke, huh?
Maybe a little over our heads here as we take a look at the speed track list. Sensation getting map priority here as they choose Zigzag Timberland for map number 1, followed by Desert Construction Chaos is the track 2 pick here for ROX Esports, and round number 3 will be played on World Tour New York Rally. And should we need a round 4 or round 5, those will be on Terracotta Twister and Facility 5. I'm
Facility 5
sad.
pretty rare.
Yeah, it is a rare pick here in speed mode, and I'm a little sad that we're seeing Terracotta Twister in round 4 because that means we might not get it. And I think, at least for me personally in Team Speed, Terracotta and Zigzag are by far my 2 favorite tracks to watch. They're so energetic, they're so much fun. I feel like the dynamic of Terracotta Twister when you enter the inner tomb is I'm always on the edge of my seat. I almost stand up trying to cast that thing.
I'm kind of getting to be a fan of WKC Brazil.
It's good.
It's been, like, I really had a negative opinion of it at first because it's just so open, but it's led to a lot of cool strategies. We will not be heading there as it is banned this time around, but one of your favorite tracks, we're starting things off once again on Forest, Zigzag Timberland.
And here we go on Zigzag Timberland, Sensation versus ROX. Hojin and Guard off to an already fantastic start percent as well. And I gotta say, by the way, Hojin so far here in KDL Preseason 2 is really living up to the reputation that he built for himself in Kartrider League. I mean, KDL Preseason 1, this guy has fans in droves, but I mean, to be completely frank, his performance, it didn't meet the expectations the fans have set for him. But here in KDL Preseason 2, he has been looking so strong for Team Sensation, a big part of why they're having so much more success.
Yeah, the term that we use for this in Korea, usually for a player who struggles early in a year but then comes along later, is slow starter, right? And this is a term that sounds weird to use for Hojun because of his legendary performances in the past, but it has definitely been the case for him in this year of 2023, the first year of Kartrider Drift in our preseasons. Ding! Really aggressive here, pushing that nitro through, and that was amazing what he just accomplished there, but can he hold on to it as Hojun will have a collision here, and Ding in that second place spot, going to give enough points here to ROX at the moment in this first lap to hold the lead. See how long Joker can defensively hold this first place spot.
They just see how that one breach in the armor there of Sensation at the top of the ranks leads to them completely crumbling here, as now it's a 3 versus 2 effectively here in the top 5 spots, as Ding just coming through and creating problems there for Hojin and Joker, and no longer are those two racers able to synergize as well as they can, although they have been able to consolidate here back at the pack. Jung trying to make a collision happen, wasn't able to get it. Hojin actually a little bit of a pinball thing going on with him right now as he falls all the way down into 5th place, and now Percent, the baton is passed to him as Hojin also trying to close the ground. Behind all those collisions, Joker was able to run away with this one a little bit here into 1st place, so now it's really a battle for those middle ranks, but Percent and Hojun, they've done a great job of recovering.
Yeah, that was actually a great recovery from Hojun because he really had lost control, but you know, when you're bouncing off the walls like that, you got to pull off. It's really tough. I mean, speaking of, we're going to see this once again, but I mean, while he is colliding with Ding and Jung here, they're falling further and further behind, actually a little bit of collision with each other there. Now Percent and Joker have such a lead. That 1-2 finish here might just be all said and done. 500 meters to go. Ding's got one final push here. He can use the Team Nitro, but this one looks pretty over to me, State.
Yeah, I mean, the space that was created there between Percent and Joker and the remaining players there for ROX Esports was just too much to bear with all of those collisions happening in the latter portion there of lap number 2. ROX just unable to put the pieces back together, and that's oftentimes the way that it goes there in Zigzag Timberland. It is so cutthroat, it can be so punishing. Any mistakes made, I mean, you pay dividends on those, man. It hurts.
Joker really having control for the entire track as well. I think he's really come into this season reinvigorated. He's got a very aggressive, attitude. We saw him with the camera earlier messing around. He just seems really happy, and a player who's at the peak of his form, who's in good mental condition, right? Always going into a race feeling very confident. That's a scary player when you consider who else he has on his roster, like Hojun and Percent, 2 players in particular of the 4 that really stand out as successful players throughout their careers too. Obviously a bit of a dichotomy between, or like a gap between Hojun and Percent's records. Still, it's a roster that has a lot of power behind it. They have a lot of power here in the start of this race here on speed. We'll see if they can continue the momentum as we move into Desert Construction Chaos. off we go. Sensation in the lead here in speed mode, but Seongnam ROX with a better start.
Yeah, Spell and Ding off to a great start. They were able to bounce off some collisions from the beginning and just get themselves into a fantastic spot here as we enter one of the more difficult tracks here in Team Speed mode. Ding and Spell for now able to continue to hold on to those top 2 spots. Now Dutzy with a little bit of body blocking himself, using the New York City tour bus to the best of his ability. That long cart trying to body box as best as he can. Hojun just wants to go, finally does get the pass as we get ready to enter this upper portion.
Yeah, just trying to use this bus. Hojun actually with a smaller cart body though just doesn't really care about him too much here. It looks like he will pass Hojun. That was beautiful there. Then actually blocking back is Jong also going to start to bully. And it's a top 4 here. The rare 19-point lead that you get with that. Now, it's eventually going to be Hojun who breaks back into top 4, and we're still in our first lap. There's a lot more race left here, but the amount of control that they have right now is immense, and it's hard to imagine a mistake leading to them losing it. Guard, on the other hand, it might not be a mistake. It might just be great play here from Guard and Hojun as they break into top 3, and Ding, really the only one still holding on to that momentum.
Yeah, all the sweeping was focused on trying to control Hojun, but they did not anticipate the inner line coming in there from Guard, and so he's able to throw a wrench in this one now. Sensation holding on to 2-3-4. That is potentially a win condition here, should they be able to maintain it, but Ding, the pressure's on him right now in this 1v2 at the top of the race to face off against Guard and Percent, who have been so good at sweeping, so good at passing as we enter once again the upper portion of this track.
Ding in first place still, but I mean, Sensation need more members up here in top 3. There's no just 1, 5, 7, 8 win condition, unfortunately.
No.
That's not a thing. So Ding is going to hold on to first, but Spell really needs to make something happen here, or he or Jong, who's not too far behind. Spell, blocked out there, forced into the wall there on that corner. And Ding, he keeps his spot here, but you can see Sensation are just practicing on defending the rear rather than trying to hold that first, and they're still just going to pass him with this jump here. 100 meters to go, and it is going to be Sensation taking a 2-0 lead here. Start to finish in control. Well, I say that. ROX had a small lead on the first half of the first lap, but I mean, this was once again Sensation dominating.
Yeah, I think Ding could have gotten first place there if he wanted to, but he knew that that's not enough for his team, and so he tried to slow down and do a little bit of body blocking and disrupt the 2-3-4 to allow his teammates to try and close the distance and disrupt that. And then, you know, maybe if you're still able to hold on to position 1, you can get enough points for a win, but just wasn't able to get it there. And as Sensation, I mean, they've been racing fantastically so far, especially in speed mode. They really do seem reinvigorated here in KDL Preseason 2. In KDL Preseason 1, we could see on their faces whenever we would exit tracks after they had lost, or sometimes even when they won, just a feeling of apprehension and anxiety, and the pressure, you could tell it was getting to them because they didn't meet the expectations that they had even set for themselves, let alone the expectations the fans had for this team. And this is a different, happier Sensation that we're seeing here in KDL Preseason 2 is we'll see if they can continue to build on this momentum so far, looking fantastic here against ROX Esports in a pivotal match that could send them to the postseason. As we move on to round number 3, it will be World Tour New York Rally. Sensation looking very good here, already up 2-0 in the speed set, just 1 track win away.
And this is a single lap track here, and we have seen Seongnam ROX take leads in all of our first 2 tracks, including this third one, you could argue, with the start that we saw there, but never really able to maintain them when it matters most. And usually around the midway point, it's Sensation who does overtake them. We'll see if that ends up being true here once again, because ROX have that 5-point lead right now. 1-4-5 is the positions at the moment, but they are not in firm control. I mean, Guard is up here, Hojun has a nice angle he can take, and you're never safe against this team.
A lot of potential collisions coming through, but actually the racing has been very clean here at the top. Well, I say that, and then Hojun, and oh my goodness, okay. Hojun and Joker getting some bad trades right there as ROX consolidating a little bit here at the front. Guard will try to draft as best he can to short the distance as Jung now zoning out, but Percent and Hojun with this breakaway here for Sensation, starting to look a little bit better for them, man.
Yeah. ROX, on the other hand, I mean, you have Ding in first place. Once again, he's going to need to hold on to that, but they have a lot more tools this time around. It's not just him against the world, as Jong is nearby. Spell is not too far behind, and they have control right now of the lead. We're getting close to the end of this single lap track here, and Percent, if he can pass, that will change everything here as Hojun makes an attempt and Jung blocks him very successfully.
Yeah, Jung doing a great job of holding this line as ROX right now with a small points lead, handing in 200 meters away on this straightaway. It looks like Ding will be able to secure first place with a nice body block there on Percent. And ROX by 1 point, the 1-4-6-7 finish will be enough for them to manifest a win, as that was a nail-biter. I mean, if Guard was able to pass Jung there for position 4, we would have had a speed sweep, but instead it's going to be 2-1. ROX getting on the board here and putting up a good show.
And not to mention that, like, Hojun also gets that pass there at the last second. You mentioned there could have been an additional pass, right, with Guard coming through. But there were so many ways this goes wrong for ROX. Ding loses first place. He barely didn't, right? Hojun passes Jung. Could have seen Guard come through. That's it. That's the end of your speed run. But they held strong this time around, and I think Ding's amazing defense there at the end, forcing the chase to be pushed into the guardrail there and just not allowing any angle of attack. He did his job beautifully, and it was enough ultimately to get them on the board here. But they're going to need to do better than that. They need to win 2 more in a row to get the reverse sweep here and win speed. Definitely a possibility, as a little bit later than usual, but our favorite World Tour Terracotta Twister is going to show up. Let's see if ROX can bring us to a 5th and final. Off we go, ROX here trying to fight back in a big way. And once again, decent start with Ding and Jung. So every single track they have had great starts. It's just maintaining that's been the challenge.
Yeah, well, Ding, especially here for ROX Esports, has been doing such a great job of maintaining that pole position. I mean, even in the races where they have lost and he had to surrender it to try to give his teammates room to breathe, he's been doing a fantastic job of running. But Jung, I mean, he hasn't really been having his best day so far. So for him here on Terracotta Twister to pull away as far as he has already in first place is looking really good for this team as we enter this inner tomb. Let's see if these players try to greet these lines as best they can. Is actually a bit of a collision there for Jung. We'll have him fall all the way back into 3rd place. Now he was able to take that inner line to supplant Percent, but Hojun now in first.
Yeah, Guard also falling behind there too, but Percent, man, he not only blocked there for Ding, but then also recovered from the counterattack there of Jung extremely well, so didn't really lose any momentum while also maintaining Hojun's lead here. Okay, Ding, really aggressive inner line attempt here, actually going to cross across 2 and look to control this, and this is a huge swing here for ROX. They actually pull ahead. They have the win condition right now. I say that. This is so neck and neck in our final lap.
That's so close, and it really comes down to just these 4 racers we have on screen right now is Jung and Ding. They're the best racers ROX has here when it comes in terms of running. They're going to see if they can pass Hojun, the Emperor himself, as well as Percent, who's doing a fantastic job of sweeping here with his tour bus.
Oh, Percent looking for an attack on Ding just like lap 1, but oh, mistake made, but Joker is actually going to seize on the opportunity. Ding off the map here. They lost a lot of momentum. Sensation just a point ahead.
Yeah, Ding did get knocked off the track right there, and now actually Hojun going to maintain first position, but Percent actually retired. So I'm not sure exactly what happened here for Sensation.
Looks like a disconnect. We may have a regame here as Sensation will
win. They still win.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure exactly what the rule is going to be on this one, as we'll have to heal from the production staff.
So last time this happened when a team won, they were awarded the win, but this is of course going to rely on them not, everyone was still continuing to race normally, and I think that was the case, but I think Sensation will take this despite the disconnect. I think if it had been on the loser's side, we might replay it. And that's, of course, assuming that they didn't actually stop racing ROX, and because of the disconnect. If that actually happened, then we're going to have to review comms and do some stuff like that. But I think this win will still stand. But that was phenomenal racing from Hojun and Joker there at the end. Despite Percent's sacrifice, which also somehow it was such a great sacrifice, like he actually DC'd from the lobby.
The ultimate sacrifice was made.
I mean, Joker was able to get around there with Hojun, and then we kind of stepped back and we're looking at a wider shot. So last time it was left up to the disconnecting team to either replay regardless or just accept the win. I don't know what will happen this time around, so we'll keep you guys updated on this one. The Sensation did have that disconnect with Percent, and it really is about whether ROX decided to stop racing because they thought that it was gonna, just be a replay. I don't know if that's a good enough excuse, but I don't have the rule book on hand. And it
Yeah.
also looked like they raced normally, so we're going to review the race, and we'll let you guys know what goes on as we are having the replay reviewed. Percent fell off the track here in the final lap. Oh, he was actually glitched through the wall.
Oh, and he collided.
But-
yeah,
and he
so we're
actually-
not showing this on screen as this is
Yeah.
actually the referee that's checking the replay here, but
The cart, so as he disconnected, his cart body was still in the client, and he actually slid through the wall and collided with several ROX players, actually. Jong gets a collision here. I think that's a regame.
Yeah.
As far as I could tell, State, that looks like a regame to me. I mean, you guys don't have it on screen, but Percent collided by flying through the wall there, and that actually will impact the outcome of the race.
yeah, I'm looking at this, and I think it's most likely that we're going to have a regame as, once again, this is off screen, but the referee is double checking, and yeah, on screen that we see right now, Percent with a full collision there on Jung, who was in second place taking an inner line, and because Percent, once he disconnected, his cart body, it felt like it lost collision with the map objects, but it maintained collision with other
Yes,
carts.
that's right. So it stopped going. It was.
Yeah, Chung just got completely knocked out of the race from second
Yeah.
place into 8th place because he was stumped there by the Racer for Sensation. So I'm almost certain that we will have a regame and a replay here on Terracotta Twister, as the points do not tell the full story.
Yeah, completely agree. It definitely looked like it made a massive impact on the race, and so probably going to be a regame. And this is extremely rare in modern esports, but sometimes like weird things happen, right? And this is going to be one of those moments. You know, a little bit of extra drama to what has already been such an exciting and close series here. And you could tell ROX, like, it felt like there was a moment where something went wrong, and I thought maybe they backed off or like took hands off, like, all right, we're regaming, I guess, because of the disconnect. But you could see that actually that collision is why they dropped back so substantially.
Yeah, I saw the collision there in the inner portion of the map, but I didn't register that Percent had disconnected, and that's why the collision was able to happen. I thought it was just, you know, a cascade of failures after one bad sweep, everyone's just ping-ponging off each other. But in fact, that was the case, so I think we are waiting to see if Percent can resolve his
Rock,
computer
paper,
issue
scissors.
and connect back in. As I assure you that this will not be decided by rock, paper, scissors. The referees are looking.
Yeah, Percent has not rejoined the lobby just yet, so we're probably
Yeah.
checking his PC. And obviously making sure he has a proper internet connection. Well, it's not actually online. We're playing LAN here on the tournament server, or client rather, but just making sure his connection to the tournament server is actually stable.
Yeah, occasionally these things do go wrong. I mean, especially when you get into an esport where there are 8 players in a single lobby.
It's very rare for disconnects to happen in these types of situations. It's sometimes related to the physical connection itself, like, and like very rarely somebody actually kicks out an Ethernet cable, but like the router or where the cables are connected, some part loses power temporarily, for example, and that's usually how this goes. And like the replay has to be reviewed by both teams and the coaching staffs of both teams and accepted, right? And like the referees here will have to give them the decision, and then they'll have to sign off on it. So it's going to take a little bit of time here. It's such a bizarre scenario, though, that, you know, obviously Percent also couldn't even have been aware that after he disconnected his cart body would make an impact. So he has to then be shown what happened. Like while you were knocked out, man, your cart was flying.
It's exactly what the referees, I think, right now are showing the players here for Sensation is... I wish we got a shot of it on screen for the viewers watching at home, because it is really something that I haven't seen in Kart Rider Esports before. I mean, a cart phasing through one of the corner turns, one of the hairpin turns there in the intersection of Terracotta Twister, and despite phasing through the physical wall barriers of the map, maintaining collision with carts, and literally taking Jung from second place to 8th because he was so tethered to the cart body of the disconnected player.
And there's a argument to be made that they had a big enough lead, but I just don't think that argument personally holds water, considering it was a small lead. We had 500 meters or so to go, and
Jung was in second.
And we've seen crazier things happen. Like Jung might have been able to get an amazing draft, or we could have seen Hojun have a collision, right? And then they end up winning the race. And in that case, we probably would have replayed it anyways because of the disconnect. So, but it has been ruled that we are going to replay the race, which is, I think, definitely the correct call by my books. I mean, you and I have seen the replay, everyone else hasn't, but it's not shocking at all. that there was that replay considering the cart husk collision. Like,
Yeah, that was kind of insane. That would be like if we had this in item mode where you could like collide, you can move through the walls and collide with other carts. It'd be the most OP ability in the game.
well, we're gonna replay it, State. Maybe one day the footage will be released, but trust me, guys, it was pretty weird, and I definitely think it deserves a regame.
Yep.
We're gonna have that regame now on World Tour Terracotta Twister.
And off we go once again. Speed round 4 here in Terracotta Twister. In case you lost your bearings, Sensation up 2-1 is match point for them here in Speed. And ROX Spell off to a great start so far in first place. Hojun and Joker right behind him.
Yeah. So Hojun trying to compete here. I mean, the two of them have a pretty significant gap actually right now, and Ding has been so good at actually in these first laps running into first, as he's going to try to draft here off of Joker and push ahead here, see how good Joker's defense is, because if Ding moves up into third place, ROX have a really nice lead here on this first lap. And now that we move into the inner part, let's see if any crazy collisions happen as Guard takes an aggressive build on that jump.
Yeah, actually able to pass Jutsi there. It's a little bit more collision. Jutsi does push him back out on the following turn as Spell and Hojun continue to battle 1-1. And full credit to Spell, man. Hojun has been looking so strong this season, even in ace matches. But look at Spell. He's done a fantastic job of hanging with one of the best in the business. Hojun now finally does pass him here in lap number 2, but ROX still definitely in contention.
Yeah, Joker here trying to pass Ding. I mean, this is really, right now, when you look at the top 4, these top 4 positions, like the first iteration of this race, have been the most critical. Joker made that really last-minute pass there with Hojun to actually take the lead despite the disconnect. This time, Ding pushes into first here, and that's enough points for ROX at the moment, but I mean, it's changing rapidly here. You just keep your eyes on those top 3 spots. 2, 3, 4 here for Sensation now. This needs to be cracked by Jong and Spell, or this is going to be a win here for Sensation.
No blunders just yet as we continue to move through the inner portion. It looks like every player able to navigate it quite well.
Guard dropped back though, ROX taking the lead.
Yeah, Ding in a good first place right now, but
Hojun
Hojun with 2 boosts. Oh, the turn, he might have floundered the turn because now Ding has 2 blue boosts. That should be first place for him, and Jung right behind means we will be going to a track number 5 here in speed mode. ROX fighting back. 3-4-5 finish for Sensation, not able to break into that top 2.
Jong's revenge.
Yeah,
coming
man.
through, and I do really like the point you made. You caught it where Hojun went for that aggressive double boost there and actually kind of whiffed the execution and went really wide there and kind of missed the full power of his nitro. So he dropped back, and Ding and Jong are able to take that 1-2 there right outside as we leave the inner tunnels. And that's it. We're going to a 5th one, as you say. And I mean, it's a really frustrating situation here for Sensation because on paper, in theory, you might have had that first iteration of the track on lock, but because of some weird disconnect issue, you now have to replay it. You end up losing the second one, but you could still close this one out. That's why it's important to be ahead in a series. And we're going to that rare, elusive Factory Facility 5, as we almost never see this track played. It's banned all the time. It's just not prioritized. And this one gets really interesting. There's a lot of spin angles, right? Roundabouts. You've got some really hard corners and hairpins here, State.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite tracks. It's one of the more complicated tracks that we have here in KDL Preseason 2 Speed Mode, and it will be the decider here as we move on to Factory Facility 5. Speed mode on the line, Sensation versus Seongnam ROX. The winner of this track will be going into item mode with 1 victory under their belt, and Sensation off to a fantastic start. Percent Hojun tag teaming this a little bit, but Jutsi threading the needle, able to work his way into first place, if only for a moment.
Yeah, it's actually really huge because they went for more aggressive cuts to build nitro, whereas Sensation didn't, so they could get the early lead, and still Jutsi is actually able to, with that extra nitro boost they built up, contest here in the front lines. As you see Hojun here going to actually pull ahead right now. It is a lot of changing we're seeing, but we're going into the inner parts of this. This is that round robin, or not round robin, roundabout I call it. It's really just a downward spiral there. No one collides there. It's very common to see, as now we're moving into a little bit of the wider section here before we hit those hairpin turns. And Jutsi holding on to this top 2 spot so successfully here, but they're going to need more than that as Spell and Jong are at the very back of the pack.
Yeah, Dutzy finally was able to pass and break away into that second place. Now a 1v1 with him versus Hojun for first, but ROX holding on to positions 2, 3, and 4. Keep in mind, that is a win condition, and this is a one-lapper, so should they be able to maintain this with some nice defense, especially with Dutzy passing Hojun on the front, and oh, Sensation disaster! Collisions there for Percent and Guard as they fall back, and now ROX consolidating at the top ranks, Wolf.
Yeah, I mean, they did such a good job on those hairpins, pushing ahead here, and now it's Hojun against the world here. Can we see Percent push back? I think he's too far behind. It's not going to happen. And ROX will complete the reverse sweep here in speed and go up 1-0 in this series. And man, a dramatic storyline it was here to the regame, to the final one going in their favor. But they were so behind even on that 5th track of Facility 5. They were able to, though, utilize the hairpin turns way better. And then on the second follow-up hairpin turns, that's when the collisions happened and Sensation really lost control. They were losing a little bit on the first one. Second one, a lot of collisions, a lot of drop back, and ROX end up taking the lead. And Hojun, I mean, he held his own, but he alone wasn't enough to get it done.
Yeah, Hojun, it felt like, was the lead racer for Team Sensation pretty much every single track in this race, but full credit to Ding. I feel like he was up there in position 1, position 2, and if he wasn't, he was challenging it inside and out. A key part of ROX's success here in speed against a Sensation that's looking revitalized here in KDL Preseason 2. We came into this match knowing it was going to be a close one. It absolutely has delivered here as we see some roster changes. Clancy is going to be swapped in here for a Spell, provide some item assistance for ROX Esports. Sensation holding on to the same roster.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting item mode.
I am looking forward to seeing how Clancy changes it up because we've mentioned this before. I talked about it at length in PS1 and now in Preseason 2 here. ROX has been one of our weakest teams in item mode in terms of the teams we consider to be strong teams, right, in the KDL. And so far in Preseason 2, I think they've done much better. And having item priority here is going to feel nice for you, especially that you have the lead in this series. But if you are a Sensation, feel a little bit frustrated about how that speed mode went here, see if they can bring us to an ace match now. As I think that's what everybody wants to see, right? That Hojun versus Jong matchup.
Yeah, Hojun versus Jong. Fans have been wanting it since KDL Preseason 1. We might get it here in Preseason 2 should Sensation win. Sensation so far in item mode has the better record here, and this was another team that truly struggled a lot with item mode in the previous preseason of KDL, but so far 85.7% round win rate, 6-1 overall in item. If they can keep up that momentum, we might be getting that ace match between Hojun and Jong, 2 titans of Kart Rider Esports. As we're getting ready to start off item mode here, it will be played on World Tour London night.
We begin our item mode here on London night. So we'll see what the strategy is going to look like here for Seongnam ROX, a team that struggled in the Magnet Rush meta, but now that we're in a tempo meta, and also sometimes a lone frontrunner meta, which one of these styles they are going to play, as Jong will take a lot of damage here.
Yeah, a lot of attacks coming in there on Jong as he falls all the way back into 7th place, and as this is a 3-lapper, we have a little bit more time to talk, but one of the things that interests me the most from the change in item mode from KDL Preseason 1 to KDL Preseason 2 is how it feels like truly across the board, every team, or at least almost every team that excelled in item mode in KDL Preseason 1 is now struggling in item mode here in KDL Preseason 2, and all the ones that failed, I mean, Sensation and ROX, both these teams, they struggled so hard in item mode in the previous season. They both have winning records.
Yeah, I think the complexities of the finishing meta where you just rush to the end were really hard to execute. Only certain teams could really get it down, and it was basically one player oftentimes who was so good at it. Tech, for example, who I think was by far the best. Jimin was also very good at this Liiv SANDBOX. We're seeing it's more of a team effort now where you're not just having one carry, it's all about the tempo, it's all about the item steps. We're just tons of magnets here across the board. We're going to see some used for tempo right now.
Look at that.
But I do agree with you that, you know, as we've swapped over, all of that muscle memory, all of the ideas you have going into the previous meta don't really carry over here into our new one. Now we're on our final lap here. EMP for Plansy, who's up on the front lines. Unfortunately, not going to help you out against these standard attacks. As now, I mean, Sensation, they've got a pretty huge lead here. Boost and an Angel for guard.
Almost every racer has a magnet, though, and a lot of them have nitrous as well. As it feels like we're actually casting a KDL Preseason 1 item mode match right now. Not a lot of attacks coming in. 500 meters left to go to the finish line right now. Sensation's guard and Hojun in first place as now Angel Shields get popped. Magnets are going in as well, but Hojun with just enough speed able to pass in first place is... I mean, that was really the old meta that we saw right there. Sensation got the better end of the trade, but man, I think it was at one point we had like 7 magnets on the field spread across 6 different players. On top of that, we had like, what, 2 or 3 different nitruses, and some Angel Shields.
All of those magnets came in really on the end of the second lap to the third lap, so it was like, well, there's not a lot of time. You only really have 3 consistent item boxes, arguably 4 on London Night where you could pick up items, so you're like, well, I guess I hold these and we look for the big push at the end. Then try to chain these together, but it's actually very hard to execute, and Sensation had a pretty big lead. They had enough of an advantage there, plus the additional Angel, that they were able to take it in the end.
That's actually a very good point, and maybe that's one of the reasons why some of these styles, like what we saw from Aura here earlier today, has been playing as well on this map, because World Tour London Night, you can't rotate through the items quite as well as you can on other maps, so perhaps attacking is a little bit weaker. More similar to the meta that we saw in KDL Preseason 1, and I mean, certainly Sensation and ROX, they both played to that effect because they knew that, you know, the attacks are going to be limited.
You have less items on this track. You also have corners and a lot of structures that can block attacks as well, make it very difficult to use. So I think you're onto something with that. Maybe we'll see this style evolve on London Night. But now we're moving to Forest Mushroom Caves for our second track.
Off we go here on track number 2, Forest Mushroom Caves. As Guard's going to slow down, pick up 2 acorns instead of 1, put them in his little squirrel cheeks.
Yeah, he's going to have to bury those and save them for lap 3.
Honestly, I'm sad that we don't see this map more often in item mode, because as far as the tracks go in Kart or Drift, I mean, don't get me wrong, every track, it's so beautiful. They all have their own different dynamics, but I love the naturey vibe that we get here on this one. It's something that we don't see quite as often as you know, the ice tracks or the more industrial tracks or now the WKC tracks.
I mean, this track is definitely a happy one, you know? Makes you smile, makes you feel like you're on vacation. You get a little cave action in here.
I feel like I'm on like an amusement park, right? You know, I'm back at a little kid.
It's got its own unique aesthetic. It's even got a waterfall going through there.
Beautiful, man. I want to retire down here.
Just watch out for all of the items rocketing through during your retirement.
Slipping on a banana feels breaking my hips, my old age.
Plansy has maintained this first place lead for quite some time here, State, but now Guard is going to pass him here. He only had a magnet and a shield for this entire time, so eventually it was just going to get worn down. No Angels to support him either. And now Percent have a really nice tempo advantage and an item advantage as well, as Plansy was really the only guy at the front. Now he's at the back here. Sensation feeling pretty good about their chances, I'd say.
Yeah, and also not a lot of big attacks on either side. In fact, only attack on the field right now is a banana. We have a lot of EMPs, we have a lot of nitrous, some water wisp and wisp missiles now, coming in as Jung does throw both of those. But will he be able to contest first place here at Percent? Keep in mind, this is lap number 2. Final lap here, but there's no attacks, and attacks now actually coming in from Sensation on a Jong, so Plansy's going to be the one that has to contest it, but that's his only attack here, his only boost.
Yeah, they had no weapons here, and he actually hits that shot, but there's just too many Sensation members here. Now, late lightning here with the magnet. This could be huge. Can Hojun actually win?
Oh my goodness, out of nowhere, Tootsie coming in. That magnet completely slowed Hojun down. I thought Sensation had it in the bag.
So as far as I understand from how many item games I've played, and I've played a lot of item games, I think how the magnet works is actually if you're slowed and you have no momentum, like it's based on how much speed you have, and it takes a large percentage, right? But it's kind of momentum based. So if you're slowed by lightning and then get hit by that magnet and you're in that position, you basically just can't move. Like you're actually just gonna get completely locked down. And Hojun, he certainly was. You had to call it a chain CC. You know, you can call it what you want, but he just was stuck, man. It was a MOBA moment, all right? It was a team fight that he lost. He was a prio target. They brought him down. But legit there, the lightning coming through and then the magnet just prevents him. He lost all of his acceleration. There's just no way for him to move forward and cross the finish line. It's sitting at about sub 100 meters from the finish line, I think it was there at the end. So close and yet so far.
I mean, if that wombo combo did not come through for ROX, it was going to be death, but instead they're tying it up 1-1 now as the best of 5 turns to a best of 3. Who will take the lead with track number 3 on Desert Sphinx's Riddle?
Off we go, tied up 1 apiece. Seongnam, as you can see, are the speed winners. If you're ever tuning in and you don't know who has the advantage when we are in the middle of a match, you can see below the team names, the speed win indicates that Seongnam is up 1-0 in this series. And we're moving into this one with Guard and Joker up here at the front lines. A lot of shields have been picked up.
Yeah, a lot of shields. Guard does pick up another one as he's going to try and hold on and take as much aggro for his team as possible. Is one of the metas we have seen work quite well for these teams, at least in the middle portions of these laps, is it can allow your players that are closer to the bottom ranks, that are trying to get as many items as possible, close the distance, while keeping up that high item propagation now is Joker and Percent. I mean, Joker still holding on to 2 shields, should be able to absorb another one. Actually, I think he might even block 2 attacks right there.
Yeah, Ding here gonna eat a hit though and jump back, and Sensation just have so many players up here in the front that it's gonna buy a lot of time for Joker, who does have those 2 shields, and this is the lone man meta style we've seen where
Plansy,
you have a huge lead, and this is the map zoom out here where you can see how far ahead it is, and Plansy, I mean, he's trying to do what he can here, and they're trying to push forward and get some tempo, but Joker has such a lead here. Now, thus he uses this magnet, tries to shield, but is then pushed back. And this is what happens when you have a huge lead like this with multiple players. You can put all your attacks into Hojun, and then Joker gets away. You attack Joker, then Hojun just passes you again. As Plansy will be able to push through here. He's going to get EMP'd promptly.
Yeah, but these UFOs and the magnets are the great equalizers here in lap number 2 as we enter lap number 3. Final lap here. Joker once again in first place here, holding on to double shields, but with Plansy holding on to a magnet. Even if some attacks do come to fruition on him, would not be surprised to see him continue to close the distance. And meanwhile, looking at the way that these lineups are stacking up, seeing all the way here on the back for ROX, does hold on to 2 Nitrous. He cycles 1 to try and close the distance a little bit, but still 3 players for ROX.
Guard pushing
top 4
ahead here, but we'll eat 1 more hit as, that's
goodness.
So unfortunate. Oh man, that actually might be just what cost them this round here. Let's see if Hojun can make a final push with this magnet. So close, the UFO hits Jung.
Oh, UFO does hit Jung, but he's able to pass the baton there to Ding, who's able to bring in the win for ROX. 2-1 now in their favor.
Man,
that one came down to the wire, but that water balloon, it hurt so much.
The water balloon off the
clipped
spin.
him.
Yeah, the spin out into the water balloon is so rough. You're just not able to avoid that. Right out of invulnerability, straight into the balloon. It might have been intentional, but I really think it was kind of unlucky, to be honest, as also Hojun was very close to getting his revenge there, had the magnet set, and he's like, all right, maybe this time I actually get to lock you down, and then we're going to take the win, but it's just too many players with the advantages. And Sensation had a lot of an edge going into the second lap, and halfway through it felt like, oh, they've actually got a lot of control here. You had Guard way up at the front, the Joker took that position. But we have seen this strategy usually falls on its face, so we'll watch this one more time, man. Plansy, magnet pull, but Jong is up in front, so Hojun's trying to then pull his magnet out, but it's just not enough. Percent snipes. And then, yeah, this UFO comes through, but Ding doesn't care.
That insane attack there on Guard, both the water balloon and also what was it, it was a rocket or something that spun him out and caused him to collide with it. Took so much momentum out of Sensation. They're going to have to do a lot of work now to tie things up and force an ace match as we get ready to move on to track number 4. It will be played on Factory Cogwheel Crush. Off we go on what might be the pivotal track here for Seongnam ROX. They're just 1 track win away from securing the 2-0 victory here over Sensation.
Yeah, Jong here in the lead for now. Gonna pop this shield, pop a second one to avoid that wisp, and a small tempo advantage. It's a 2-lap track here, very narrow, so items like the barricade can get value here, and holding onto the high ground, usually advisable here, but you can drop down to avoid some attacks and use the track against your opponents. As Jung will also be the victim of one of these spins into bombs.
I feel like Chung has been getting bullied almost here in these item modes, especially the past 2 tracks, man. It feels like every time we look at Chung, he's getting absolutely clapped by these rockets or by water wisps. So
Joker also getting wrecked there by that barricade, the barricade part of the map. And yeah, Jung, I mean, despite taking a lot of abuse, he's back up in first here.
yeah, and Jung and Guard are going to be the two. Oh, actually 2 more players right behind Guard. I thought that door was going to close a little bit more quickly, but instead Dutzy and Percent are going to be able to join them here. All 4 of these racers able to take advantage of that speed boost here at the end of the track now, as Dutzy in first place will be able to deflect that water wisp.
Yeah, Guard
with his
looking
shield
for a physical attack there, then attacks Dutzy, but he did have the shield. He picked up another one, so we'll block the second rocket. The third one will finally catch him, though. And now he's kind of in free fall here as Joker moves back up to first place, does have that magnet. I mean, this is such a close race. Plans on getting wrecked by the map again.
Yeah, and looking at the items right now as we enter lap number 2, pretty much everybody in their bag has nitrous and magnets, so it's a little bit reminiscent of what we saw on London Night.
Yeah, this is another one of those tracks where it's really hard to use attacking items if the corner comes through, as this is the barricade I was talking about. Hojun's gonna avoid it, and he's got a lightning actually to use onto Dutzy, and that magnet isn't that important in first place. He's gonna get magneted first, then UFO'd. Guard pulls ahead.
Guard in first place right now will get UFO'd. That's gonna might cost him the bonus right here. Is actually nobody able to take that shield. Hojun got caught there on the wall, so he's out of the cards right now. Is only 500 meters left to go. Keep in mind a lot of magnets and nitrous both in the field right now, as we'll see who's able to take the boost. It will be Joker in first place right now. Magnet slowing him down though, and ROX Ding coming in on the left side will secure the 3-1 victory in item mode, the 2-0 set score. And we are avoiding that ace match, which, I mean, I would have loved to see Hojun go off against Jung, but instead ROX Esports just showing how much they've grown from KDL Preseason 1 to KDL Preseason 2, even defeating an improved Sensation here to keep their momentum going.
Yeah, later boost coming through there after we trade lightnings, and you know, it's Sting who's able to close it out in the end. It looked very good for Joker, actually. We were watching from his perspective as he takes hands off the keyboard and will retire. Not required to finish the race on this one, but he was in such a good position. He was on the high ground. He had the magnet coming through, but there's just too many members of ROX on the lower part. And there's just, like, there's so many threats coming through and everyone's got magnets and nitros, and the final push of Cogwheel Crush just gets super chaotic. I think you really got to feel for the Sensation players because they were so close to winning speed, and something somewhat out of their hands forced them to replay it. But at the end of the day, you got to be good at both modes. You have to be consistent enough. You have to be a team that can win no matter what. And that is, you know, unfortunately they're not going to be picking up the W today here. As it was a close series, 2-3 on speed, reverse sweep for ROX, 3-1 on item, almost went to 5. And we almost had that ace match, you know, if that had gone Sensation's way. If we did see that one also go 5, it would have been one of our closer matches of this season. But Seongnam ROX, they take it this time around. And you mentioned that they're looking better in item mode. I think that this is once again proof of that here against Sensation. But nothing against Sensation either. Like, this team has looked much better just in general. Hojun is living up to his fame in KL. But, you know, not going to take the win today, and this is really going to hurt them. In terms of standings right now, this is going to put Sensation at a 1-2 scoreline, and that's going to put them significantly behind, right? Seongnam ROX is going to move up to a 3-0 here. So Sensation's chances of playoffs, they're still there. They're absolutely still there, but they're going to have to take some of these wins in these close series. Yeah,
Liiv, SANDBOX, the KWANGDONGFREECS, and Seongnam ROX solidifying their positions in the top 3 right now as Aura and Sensation continue to battle it out. And all of this loss does hurt here for Sensation. They still got a lot of track wins. That round differential, it's not going to be as painful. And keep in mind, Aura also lost earlier today. So as far as the set differential goes between those two teams, it's not getting much worse there. Both teams still in the cards. It's going to be really fun to watch them continue to try and compete for this playoff spot down the stretch.
Yeah. Our final series, we're not done yet. We do have one series left. It is going to be Kwangdong, you know, in this one. And we'll see how ShowTime look. Like, it's not going to be an unwinnable match for them or anything like that, but Kwangdong are so good right now that it's going to be tough, right? I think any track wins and speed we will applaud because Kwangdong have been so dominant, and they have been for so long, that you just have to go, well, we're underdogs today. Maybe the focus needs to be on item mode, where Kwangdong has looked not bad, but less invincible.
Yeah.
It's a tough time.
Yeah, I think if you're going to be ShowTime, you're going to just try to do your best shot there in speed because you're going against Titans, right? And then just try to come back in item mode and maybe go for a Hail Mary play there in item and force an ace match. I mean, against KWANGDONGFREECS, who is a team that really feels like they have 4 aces, it's still a very tough draw. But I mean, that's just kind of the way the schedule goes sometimes here for ShowTime, who are having not the best run so far here in KDL Preseason 2, although they do show some potential.
They certainly do, and it's a matchup that if you do happen to miraculously win, it's one of the toughest matches in your strength of schedule. We are going to have that 14th match, our final of the day, after a short break. We'll see you guys then.
프리시즌 2를 지금부터 여러분 박수와 함께 시작합니다.
잘 들리지? 누구 바람이야?
좋은데? 주호 같은데? 나 아니야. 나 숨 안 쉬고 있어. 숨을 안 쉬고 있어?
나 웃겨 들리는데 숨소리가.
나도. 애초에 나도 들리는 거면.
나만 안 들림.
너네. 맨날 개인전하고 바로 집에 가는 거.
그니까. 난 개인전 해본 적 없는데.
그래 나 스피드 가면 말 못하니까 태민이가 멘탈 케어 잘 해주고 오늘 마지막 경기 아니고 첫 경기니까 마음 편하게 하고.
광동 프리스는 여러 가지 실험을 했습니다. 차라리 미들 가는 선수가 그 부스터 가속을 이용해서 미들을 휘저어주는 게 더 나을 수도 있다. 이런 판단도 또 하는 것 같아요.
막아줄게.
또 이렇게 상대를 좀 공략해주기 위한 포지션 가고 있네요.
오케이. 이제 못 들어?
그러니까 이렇게 상이 만들어졌을 때 뒤쪽에서는 활개를 칠 거고 아니 언제 올라와?
와, 이거 아까 팔이 아니었어요?
그냥 놀게 뒤에서. 뻑백하고 싶어.
비 왜 이래요? 비 어디까지 할 거예요?
마지막
어디까지 할 거예요?
주먹까지도 한번 더 보고 있는
여기
것
들어간 거
같은데요.
보고 성빈 월드쿨이에요. 그리고
6등이야. 나 원래 2등 나갈라 했는데. 유창하면 퍼펙트 했어야지 뭐해. 내절 좀 많이 했어. 나이스. 나 팔이 맞아. 그냥 더 나이스. 나이스. 힘이 맞아. 뒤로 형 계속 가. 깜짝이야. 나 빠먹었다. 날개 있고. 태원이 사이드 한번. 사이드.
먼저 해. 맞지 말기.
태원이 맞지
2등
마.
안물.
나 필드.
태원이
거리하자.
할 생각.
거리할게.
힘이 들게. 하나에서.
된다 3등.
나이스. 그냥
내 팀몰이야. 나 미사일.
나 승민이가 빨게.
해지 있고. 1파 들었어. 턴. 1파 들었어. 봐봐. 거리 돼. 너네 거리해.
형 가.
내가 갈게.
나 서줘.
내가 서줄게.
역전이 안 되거든요. 이게.
아리케이드로도 안 될 거거든요. 그냥 막
애결 갑니다.
나이스.
나이스. 와, 애결 가자. 발이 안 맞으면 져야지. 잘한다.
대결 빌리지 무밀 터널이 나왔고요.
오케이, 다 속았다. 다 속았다.
나는 조금 한 70%?
괜찮네. 뭐가? 하고 싶다는 거야 안 하고 싶다는 거야? 내가 할게. 확실하게 하고 싶은 거야 건아? 오케이. 일단 믿어주자.
오히려 뒤쪽에서 과감하게 승부를 걸 수 있다라는 장점이 있기 때문에 오! 근데 썸머가 회복이 나쁘지가 않아요.
그렇죠. 이 빌드를 타면 그다음부터 드랩거리로 접근할 수 있죠.
안 돼요, 썸머.
순식간에 왔습니다. 일단은
좋았는데요.
좋았네. 여기가 한번 걸렸는데 이러면 월드 실수를 약간 바랄 수밖에 없는 상황인데 마지막에 피날레는 월드.
잘 들려?
야 인파 있어 인파.
포기 있어. 인파 있어. 천사 있어. 스턴 맞다. 탈고야.
여기 애들 소리 좀 전체적으로 올려주세요. 다 하고 있어봐. 더 계속 얘기해봐. 그만해도 돼.
현수야. 너 화면 봐도 된다는 거지?
친하지 않게 봐. 너의 그 시선이 느껴지면 안 돼, 나한테.
시선이 느껴지면 안 돼? 오케이.
연습해봐. 쳐다보는 연습, 그래도.
오케이. 야 여기 쳐다보는 연습을 하자 그럼. 야, 지금 느껴져?
안 느껴져.
안 느껴져?
이렇게 다 말해버리고 보면 어떡해.
월드 시합 병마용 기대했습니다. 지금부터 달려보시죠. 이라고 거짓말을 해버렸어요. 지금 달리지 않을 거예요.
뭐야, 이거?
진짜 올라간다 본데? 마이크가 켜져 있대. 아니 이거 왜 켜져 있는 거야 이거?
너 달릴 때 5.5 화면에 너 목소리 나오는 거야.
큰일 날 뻔했네 이거.
이 트랙 같은 경우에는 중반부에 힙싸움을 해야 되는 필연적인 구간이 있기 때문에 그 부분을 버텨낼 수 있는 팀이 이 트랙을 가져가게 되겠습니다.
진짜 뚫을게. 미안.
이거 살짝 아프다.
우리가 뚫어볼게. 괜찮아? 우리 살면서 하자 돼.
오케이.
안전하게.
릴콜레이션 좋겠다.
일단 뭐라 병.
서브라서 18이야.
들어.
뒤로 하겠다.
그래서 봐줄게.
18이야, 3대. 8등 거종이야, 7등 모르겠어.
오케이.
18 거종이야. 18 거종이네.
떨어졌어. 고정 아니야. 고정 아니야.
어떡해? 나못 나 3등 할 수 있어. 오케이, 3등 해봐.
나 8이야 8.
이 3위 할 수 있어요. 1위 병수.
드랩
들어오면
나이스.
아니 뭐냐고.
괜찮아.
아 이거 잘했는데 우리 앞에. 까비. 아 미안.
선수들이 자석을 모으고 마지막에 천사를 모으는데 좀 집중을 했었는데 최근에는 완전 다릅니다.
천천히 해봐.
1파 줄게 1파.
경기 같이 나온다.
1파 들려. 천천히.
나 미사일.
버리네.
공대 대기.
발이 뛰었어.
하나. 해 뜬다고 생각해.
이거 닫아? 아 누나 쳐줄게.
경기 초반이야 나.
하나 더 쳐줄게.
상처 저
나
상처.
끝까지 가본다 이거.
뺐어.
나 부자리 받았다.
나 스위치 하나 타볼게. 앞에 와줘.
끌려가고 있다는 건 약간 이제 센세이션에게는 좋은 소식은 아닌데 탭을 모으고 있어요.
뒤에 땡겨서 와봐.
나 따블 먹고 갈게 따블. 미들 사이드 미들.
쳐.
준비 주고. 현서 뺐어 하나.
나이스.
그 마지막에 해지 불러야겠다.
아. 경기 콜해줘.
봐봐.
미사일.
밀면 이거. 뺐어. 두개 뺐다.
지금 땄어?
대기.
코너에서 하자.
지금.
콜했어.
타.
하나 더 있었네. 아이고.
나 팔이야. 아 팔이 못 받아.
이거지.
나이스.
이거지.
두 번. 퇴근. 오, 월드 뉴욕 대지 중.
우거준 딜이 만납니다.
굉장히 재밌는 승부 될 것
그리고
같습니다.
다른 약간 실수가 있었고
자, 거의 다 왔습니다. 딜이 이렇게 자연스럽게 붙어버렸습니다.
점프하는 직선 구간에서 드랩을 받기 위해서 약간 조절을 했던 딜인데 일단 그래도 붙는 데까지는 성공하죠.
딜이 좀 갈렸어요. 이러면은 딜이 좀 과감하게 한번 가볼 수 있나요?
뚫어내는 완전히 이거 소중히 어떤 타이밍 지금 일단 부서 약간 타는데 여기서
근데 라이브 로킹!
Welcome back, KDL fans. We have one series left for you guys tonight. We're going to jump right into it here. It is KWANGDONGFREECS up against ShowTime. Let's introduce the Freaks, the defending Preseason 1 champions, to the stage. They have looked so good so far here, even in Preseason 2, keeping that undefeated record.
Yeah, one of the few undefeated teams here in KDL Preseason 2, looking to build on that lead as they face ShowTime, who, you know, not to mince words, they have been struggling so far, and now they're up against Goliaths. And a notable thing you might want to pay attention to here is they're at the bottom. We've talked about this a lot in the past, how the Freaks, they're so confident in their speed ability that they always say they have 1 speed ace and 3 runners. Now they're so confident, not just in their speed, but also in their item mode.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, we have 1 ace and 3 hybrid players now, so.
Yeah. I mean, they're just so dominant. Now, I mean, this is a team full of players who are trying to make a name for themselves, right? Rookies who haven't found much success yet in the early days of Cartwright Drift. FaZe, Ghost Monster, and Flare, right? These are players who, you know, are trying to figure it out still as we're going. Fron being the item ace, of course, who will come out once we get to our second mode here. But it's still a full-fledged 5-man roster. They still have the item ace, right? It's an amateur team in every sense of it, but I think that they've worked hard to get here, and now they have to prove themselves. And it's kind of a dream, I think, of a lot of amateur Cartwright pros who get to qualify to play against strong teams like KWANGDONG, right? To play against players like World and Cool, who are legends. Spear, who's really had such a great year, too, and Seongnam here in our speed mode. And KWANGDONGFREECS, they overcame their crisis, the first victory in item match. They had prayed to the item gods, and their prayers were answered.
That's right. And although they only have one item match so far, their round win rate not that bad. 6 wins, 7 losses. So certainly staying at least within the median here, as their schedule hasn't been the easiest. Facing off against Aura before was complicated, and we're prepared a lot because we heard that you guys are pro team slayers.
Yeah.
So a little bit of tongue in cheek is ShowTime has been anything but here in the KDL Preseason 2. They did look quite good in the preliminaries to get here. I mean, even qualifying for this thing shows that you have a lot of skill, you have a lot of potential, your ceiling is high, but they just haven't really been able to put it together on stage as of yet.
Yeah. But now it's showtime, right? Now you got to show up. Now you got to actually make this happen, right? And you know, you can get here, and that's one thing, and we can celebrate that with these players who haven't shown that much. But you know, they're focusing on item matches here, as they say, which is, I think, a wise choice against KWANGDONGFREECS here. But you're going to have to pull it off, you know, if you want to prove that you can hang with the best. And if you can't, that's okay, because it's a regular season where you're going to have a lot more chances. We're only halfway through. Oh, man.
ShowTime will be the item master. Aura that beat Seraphic, that beat the KWANGDONGFREECS that beat Aura.
The circle of...
This reminds me of...
Circle of life.
This reminds me of, I think, like the very old like RTS days where it's like, okay, this player's actually the world champion because they beat this player who beat this player who beat this player who beat this player who beat the world champion 9 months ago.
Good old TeamLiquid.net unofficial world championship thread. Yes,
yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly what I was talking about here as we look at the speed track list. KWANGDONGFREECS taking priority here in speed mode. They will have 3 out of the 5 picks, choosing Factory Facility 5. Interesting is track number 1.
Yeah.
Don't see that one too often. And ShowTime.
Twice today we're going to see it.
And ShowTime, no surprise they're choosing World Tour New York Rally and Boom Hill Tunnel for round number 2 and round number 4. Those are some of the more simpler tracks here, as you know, mechanically their skills don't quite line up against the Freaks here in speed mode. As it's a David versus Goliath story. Should they be able to overcome? Let's find out as we get ready to head to track number 1. It will be Factory Facility 5. Oh, never mind.
We have an audio issue, but it will be resolved shortly. We will be going to Factory Facility 5, but we started the race.
Yeah, I think they're testing maybe audio issue. Yeah, they're ending the race that we have right now on the monitors. Is everyone's just making sure they get their settings right.
Yeah, not all players might have been informed right away.
Oh, that's also possible, yeah.
So I saw Ghost was hard pushing and cutting, so I think the ShowTime players did not know that there was an audio issue. It looks like it's actually Cools here.
I'm just imagining ShowTime getting in the race like, we're really doing it, guys. Look at how far of a lead we have here right out of the gates. But no, we got to restart once again.
Yeah, it's really easy to get people back in the lobby. With the way the client is set up, it's actually pretty much instant. So once the audio issue is resolved, we'll be right back into the action.
Yeah, look at the headsets. It might be a white noise filter issue. This does happen sometimes.
Yeah, so it looks like...
Oh, comms.
Yeah.
Testing the microphone.
Making sure that those cables were fully connected. It looks like maybe the headphone part wasn't actually fully inserted properly, just based on what we saw visually there.
Yeah. It's always one of my nightmares. Here's the casters, as we also have those cables right below our desk.
Yep. Don't kick those, don't touch those, don't yoink those.
God forbid one of those becomes unplugged, but I think we should be getting back into Factory Facility 5 shortly here, as I am amped to get this one started, man. I mean, ShowTime, although they have had a rough go of things so far, they got a lot of potential. If they want to beat the KWANGDONGFREECS, it's going to start here on Factory Facility 5, as once again we're doing the intro. Track number 1, let's get to it.
Here we go, off the gates here. ShowTime challenging defending Preseason 1 champions, KWANGDONGFREECS. KWANGDONG have been so famous for getting great starts here and having 1-2-3 or 1-2-4 out of the gates, but ShowTime actually making it a little bit tough this time around on the single lap track. Not only is this track single lap, but it's also a fairly short track, and you know, the last moments are where really the action happens on those hairpin turns, as we saw in our previous series, so keep an eye for that.
Yeah, there isn't a lot of time really for Spear and Cool to try and close the distance, although Seongnam was able to work his way to first place, and I'm not actually sure what happened there for ShowTime, but Ghost and Cool did fall back, or Ghost and FaZe, excuse me, did fall back a little bit now, and now it's actually Seongnam leading the charge by a pretty wide margin, and Cool, look at this guy just go!
Yeah, he is going as quickly as he can. The defense here leaving us a little bit wanting here for ShowTime. Monster trying his best, but unsuccessful. And now you're just seeing the experience of the veterans here in Seongnam and Cool as they just run in circles around ShowTime. And it was such a great start, too. And now they have no angle on those hairpin turns. I mean, that was really the best opportunity you were going to have is ShowTime to catch back up. One more chance here, but it's a 1-2-3 FaZe trying his best, but just cannot break through at all. And, collision there as well. And this is just going to be a dominant first track here for KWANGDONGFREECS.
Yeah, ShowTime, they had a good start there at the beginning of the track, but we're unable to hold on, as you could perhaps see some of the logic for KWANGDONGFREECS in choosing Facility 5 as track number 1. As once we got into those more technical portions, you could see the builds that the KWANGDONGFREECS had prepared, in particular Cool there, with that inner line on a couple of subsequent turns, able to supplant the player there from ShowTime, and the momentum just shifted so hard. And on top of that also, when we had some of those very difficult angles of attack coming through, ShowTime, many of those players, they had collisions, they floundered, and that allowed the Freaks to consolidate their position there at the top. 1-2-3 finish.
I think you've got to be way better at defense when you get a lead like that against a team like KWANGDONGFREECS, because you're so lucky to even have that chance, right, as ShowTime to have that advantage, but then to not be able to hold on to your lead, even though you had all of the tools to do so, just showcases that there's still a lot of improvement that can be made here. And, it feels a little bit sad to frame this series this way, but it is definitely, one of our strongest teams, if not our strongest, versus one of our weakest. And we're going to have to see some improvement. We'll watch this one more time. You could see this is where things start to go wrong here. Cool takes that aggressive inner, forces a collision, recovers perfectly, and then Ghost has a little bit of a rough time recovering off of that jump, then hits this collision as Cool pushes him across. And
that whole series of turns there by Cool was perfectly navigated. He couldn't have threaded the line any better. And ShowTime, you could see them struggling to try to keep up with them, and it just created so many problems for them in the middle of the pack. As KDF able to deliver a dominating win in track number 1. Will they be able to ride this momentum and flex their muscles again here on track number 2? Let's go to World Tour New York route. Off we go in track number 2. Freaks up 1-0 and off to a better start than last time as well, with Cool already in the lead.
Yeah, World also completely uncontested here. You could just see that he's got free reign on that outer there. He's just able to draft and then push through as they're focusing so hard on the attack, ShowTime are, but the defense has again left us a little bit questioning, how much preparation has gone into speed. It might just be all of the item mode that we're seeing as KWANGDONGFREECS with a massive lead here. And you can see ShowTime actually taking control for a brief moment here, but let's see if they can defend. As you could just see, man, it's temporary advantages here, but the pack of KWANGDONGFREECS is pushing through much cleaner. Now, Flair's up here. This is the best showing we've seen from him so far in our first 2 tracks. Let's see if they can maintain this 1-2. Now we're seeing some defensive play. FaZe actually blocking out the KWANGDONGFREECS players here for a long time. Maybe there's an angle.
Yeah, I'm liking what we're seeing out of ShowTime right now, with Flair and FaZe trying to do a little bit of sweeping here on World and Cool, but Cool just so fast, trying to find that line. Ghost playing some nice defense, able to zone him out for now. Cool does go for the inner, and actually was able to go on the outer after that. So Ghost does get supplanted. Now it's Cool playing defense, and actually Ghost able to pass him.
This is looking good for ShowTime right now. I mean, right now it's only Cool who's really contesting. Flair and FaZe doing a great job sweeping. Seongnam, though, he's making a late pass for it here. And this is when you have to be so clean as Ghost and Flair. You gotta hold those 1-2s.
Cool went for the attack, but Flair was able to recover. And now Seongnam in second place. That will not be enough as Ghost is in first. Flair actually with a 1-2 finish. ShowTime did a fantastic job there on the second portion of this track. You could see that on the map of their choice, they had a much better build prepared. And that's one of their better speed wins of the season so far here in track number 2 against the Freaks. I mean, a 1-2 finish.
That is honestly one of the best we've seen from ShowTime this season. I agree with you. And the defensive play we saw from Flair and FaZe was actually, it was there. Like, it happened. They actually did hold on to their lead. And there was a moment in the first third of the lap where I was watching going, okay, they're ahead. but the setup looks weak. It looks like it's going to be really easy for Kwangdong when the map opens back up, when the track goes to one of the wider sections about halfway through. They're actually going to be able to take the outer and just pass as 3. It looked like 3 KWANGDONG players were just going to rocket into top 3. And then we saw they were able to control that before we got to the wider part. Then Flare and FaZe actually blocked extremely well there in the later parts. And then Kwangdong, they had that late run. Seongnam was trying to push through, but they just could not do it. The lead was too massive. And ShowTime, I didn't expect that in Speed we were going to see them take a single track, if I'm honest, but they already did. We're tied up.
Yeah, we are tied up now 1-1. ShowTime getting on the board. Would love to see if they can continue to fight back against KWANGDONG David versus Goliath here as we head to Forest Zigzag Timberland for track number 3.
Off we go on Zigzag Timberland, and this is a real test of your abilities here because it's not. This one is not as much team-oriented as it is just straight-up raw mechanics, which I think doesn't favor ShowTime necessarily, but it means that if they get a lead, they can showcase how skilled they are, even though they are very new players, at holding on to it through some of these crazy zigzags. Spear currently in first place, but Flare and Ghost hot on his heels.
Yeah, ShowTime is doing a great job of contesting this one with Ghost actually able to work his way to first. Spear and World are contesting him. Ghost actually boxing out them both for a consistent amount of time. But just watch as Flare, Monster, and FaZe continue to fall back right now. It's a 1 versus 4 with Ghost in 4th place and all of the Freaks right behind him. I'm not sure how much longer he can hold on.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough here as Ghost is now trying to come in and oh, he's boxed out, then collides with the railing there, and now it's Flare who's really the last man standing here. Ghost pushed so far back. It's Spear. You put Spear in 3rd place with the 1-2. He is the best sweeper in KDL, in my opinion. No one is getting past this guy without a heavy cost, paying a price as Flare did there with that collision. Spear passes him again, and he's just going to make your chances basically 0 as we move to the final lap here. Knows how much of a gap Cool and Spear have actually given the top front runners here, Seongbin and World. And it's Cool once again just going to take this inner, block Ghost out. Spear's behind him now, and they're making his life miserable, to be totally honest.
Yeah, Spear went for a big attack there on Ghost, was unable to get it, but Cool able to manifest that a little bit. Ghost did pass him for just a moment, but Cool was able to pass him himself. And look at these problems he's getting created. I mean, Ghost and Flare and FaZe, they have not been able to gain any ground at all. Looking at the mini-map on the right side, the picture-in-picture, World and Seongbin are just running away with this thing,
I mean,
drafting
Seongbin
off of each other. This is the easiest 1-2 the Freaks are going to get.
Seongbin's on like track record pace here. It might actually be World who gets it because they have been so uncontested here, and they are just flying through this. Look at Seongbin in picture-in-picture here. He is just completely maxing out his speed here. No one to contest him, and even with World dropping back here, he has no fear of colliding even with his teammate, man. He's playing time trial right now. 500 meters to go as Ghost, trying his best, but this is just too much of a lead.
Yeah, Ghost was able to close the distance a little bit, but the sweeping in from Spear and Cool just consolidating the top of the position there. World and Seongbin deliver the win with a 1-2, and I mean, you talk about the raw mechanics that comes into playing on a track like Zigzag and Timberland, and I feel like this map, or this track especially here, with the Freaks against ShowTime showcased exactly that, where a team that frankly feels like they have 4 speed aces on the Freaks that can play positionless kart rider, that can sweep when they need to, can be middle when they need to, can run when they need to, play that one to perfection, and it was just a clinic.
They didn't break the track record, but what I found most impressive, of course, was Spear and Cool, how they defended, because what they did was they both continually swapped positions over and over and over again, where the player in 3rd would attack, sacrifice himself, and collide with 2, then drop back. Then the player who was behind, say Spear was the first to do that, then Cool pulls ahead of him. He does the same thing, and they continually rotate until there's just no chance of catching up.
The synergy on the Freaks is something to behold here as we're looking to see if they can deliver a 3-1 win here in speed mode as we move on to track number 4, Village Boom Hill Tunnel. KWANGDONGFREECS just one track win away from sending us to item mode here against ShowTime. And cool, man, he is so good.
He's like styling on him. He's like 1v4ing them, building better nitro, and using that long body of his cart to its fullest potential, just right out of the gate. Just such a master of kart rider drift. Look at him go.
Something absolutely special here.
He's living up to his name.
Yeah, for sure, man. No ZZZ this time. He's not sleeping at the wheel. Cool is just a monster in the box as ShowTime's doing their best to try and close the distance, but once again, Spear up here in the top ranks will be in the collisions as Monster, you see him lose so much momentum there from that attack by Spear, and that's going to allow Seongnam to shore up the flank and create even more problems.
Oh man, and Ghost and Monster continuing to collide with each other here, unfortunately allows Seongnam to actually pull ahead. He'll even absorb that and pull further ahead. Now Ghost decides he's going to take a bit of a weird build to the side here to avoid all of those collisions. He will be able to push his way into third place with FaZe, but the gap between him and Spear is quite immense, and we talked about it so many times, but Spear's defense is insane. Good luck catching up to him, first of all, and then passing him, forget about it. It's going to be a 1-2 here for KWANGDONGFREECS, despite Ghost's efforts alone to disrupt that 1-2. And that is going to be speed mode going over. We'll give credit to ShowTime taking a track is more than we expected. In that second track, they looked very clean, held their advantages, but the lack of experience shows here. And this is how you get experience, by the way, as it turns out. So definitely a great experience for them. And item mode, they said, was going to be their focus. Is cool. With that insane start, we'll actually set a new track record here at sub 116.
Yeah, great racing there by the FREECS. And I mean, both in track number 3 and track number 4, the sweeping there in the middle ranks was so good. It felt like the FREECS could just run away with it, whoever they had in the 1-2 spot, as we get ready to move on to item mode. But yeah, credit where credit is due to ShowTime. I was fully expecting a 3-0 sweep, and that's not really just a knock on ShowTime. It's a testament to how good the FREECS have been in speed mode throughout the KDL. These guys are titans of the game, and ShowTime coming into today, they had only won 2 tracks in speed in 3 sets in total. So although they did lose 1-3, I mean, taking a track against the FREECS of all teams has got to be a confidence booster. It's a young team. They're improving constantly. And even in the interview heading into the match, they said their focus is going to be here on item mode. And let's see what they have prepared. You know, they might have some tricks up their sleeves, and maybe they can force an ace match.
I mean, you mentioned tricks up their sleeves. We are going to see Clock Tower Crossing if we go to 5 rounds here. So that's a very unusual track pick here for the side of ShowTime. And then they'll send us to London Night and Brody's Gloom. So Brody's Gloom also, since Preseason 1, we're seeing way less of. And then you see the London Night pick coming through here. It makes me feel like ShowTime have some specific finish timing strategies, like Preseason 1 type strategies with Magnet Rush, for example, or one of those defensive setups where you hold Angel, push that one player with double Nitro like we saw from Tech earlier today. That's my guess here based on the track list.
I think that's especially true for World Tour London Night, as we've seen those finish first focused strategies work quite well on that thus far. And we'll see if that can come to fruition here for ShowTime, as they need to win 3 tracks here in item mode to force a pivotal ace match against the FREECS. Let's go into track 1 of the final match of the night on World Tour London Night. And off we go. Item mode starts now, and the pressure is on here for ShowTime to get on the board with a win and try to force an ace match.
Really unique setup here on his cart. Character very rarely seen.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, I'm not even sure which character that is, to be honest. That's my kart rider knowledge failing me.
Yeah, the characters are one of those things that I don't actually know quite well.
I know a lot of them, but I don't know that one actually. Like I know Dow, of course. I know Bazzy, who's the best. And I mean, I don't know which character that is, but either way, looks very cool, very rare to see as We just see Brody here, piloted by FaZe, pushing through. Know that character too.
I gotta say, by the way, one thing that we haven't really been able to touch on, or really exciting cast opening weekend here at KDL Preseason 2, is I'm loving the new diversity that we're seeing in the cart bodies here at the KDL Preseason since the rebalance of the hitboxes, because before it was just minecart all the time. Occasionally we would see the New York City tour bus, but the minecart with its small hitbox was just so good at taking those tight lines. It's poor FaZe. Drops all the way down to the 8th place, but I'm loving the combinations of cards.
Yeah, we're
seeing
a lot more diversity for sure, and I do like to see that as Monster here going to shield this as we do. Let's take stock of these items for a moment, because Spear actually is holding on to a Lightning here, but there's not a whole lot of other setups here for the side of KWANGDONG Okay, I say that Seongnam gets the second Lightning now.
Yeah, FREECS with 2 Lightnings, and World right now actually in 4th place, not far off from 1st place with double Nitrous in the bag.
So they're actually the ones to use the strategy we saw from AURA earlier, not ShowTime. I mean, part of this, of course, the luck of the draw for the items they have, but they have an opportunity here. World used one of those Nitros, now has a shield, as you could put the Lightning player up early. World absorbs this UFO. Now you've got Seongnam who could take some aggro, then use Lightning here on this final push.
Yeah, Monster still has 2 shields, but no speed items in the bag. Just 1 shield left. That one does get popped, as now World is in 1st place.
Cool, trying to push through. This is so close right now. Monster caught with this one. Cool. UFO's gonna hit him, but World's pushing for the win, and he will take it.
Man, it felt like maybe 100 meters from the finish line, both teams completely ran out of steam in terms of items, and I was looking at the item list there on the left side, like, okay, what's the next play going to be? Because with our Observer UI, we can only really see the first couple of racers in the lead, and it actually just was the FREECS with a lot of manpower there in the mid-ranks, able to work their way into the finish. I think that might have even been a 1-2-3 finish there for them. 1-2 finish, in fact, there for the FREECS, of course. And item mode, it really is just all about whoever crosses the finish line first, but the KWANGDONG FREECS showing some nice strength there. As we talked about this earlier on London Night, how there really isn't a lot of opportunity to cycle through items, especially in the later section of that track, and KWANGDONG FREECS just getting a little bit of a better draw.
Yeah, we'll take a look at this replay again too, because Lightning was used early. FaZe gets knocked back, so really it's only Monster who can contest. Oh, that was actually earlier on. Yeah, this is the final moment. Is World actually, despite getting caught up in the Ferris wheel, it's these Lightnings coming through. Cool eats that UFO, which is massive, but I mean, they just had such a numbers advantage. Fran was the only one up there, not Monster, my bad.
Yeah, it's so funny to me that World, the one who fell through the Ferris wheel, is the one that crossed the finish line first. Oh,
it's just how item mode goes sometimes, you know, but they had a big numbers advantage. They have a numbers advantage in this series now as well. We'll see if they can take it to 2-0 as we move to Factory Cogwheel Crush. Here we go, Factory Cogwheel Crush, the second track here in item mode, the choice of KWANGDONG FREECS. And it's ShowTime, at least at the very beginning of this first lap, to take the lead.
Watching the picture-in-picture here for the KWANGDONG FREECS, and man, they were laughing so much here at the start. I'm not sure what joke was going on with them, but feeling in good spirits here as we enter track number 2. FREECS already up 1-0 right now, and a pretty good start here as well.
Yeah, Seongnam is cracking up.
I don't know what's going on with Seongnam, man.
They're having a good time, and you love to see it. Fran takes first place and has got the EMP. It's the best place to have an EMP is in first place, so if he does get UFO'd, he can just deter that one right away. Now he's got a shield. So this is an opportunity for Fran to play that solo style where he gets a lot of resources and just pushes further ahead, but they don't have the lead, I think, required.
FaZe actually emoting a little bit there as his body block of Seongnam was not able to manifest. Now both racers coming in through the speed boost as they will close the distance here on Fran, who maintains first place just for a moment there. And FaZe actually with some insane body block. That was almost a full-on pit stop there.
Yeah, and Fran losing control of first place, ran out of items there, and now, I mean, you've got these players up here in the front, but Spear with the double Lightning here is ideal because he's going to now be the punching bag, but also the slowdown. And if you can get any players here to stack some nitros or magnets, you feel really good about your position here as KWANGDONG FREECS.
Yeah, any aggro that Spear can pull here, holding onto those double Lightnings is just going to be gold for the KWANGDONG FREECS. Since we want the sensation, or since ShowTime, excuse me, is SST and ST
It's
Still
tough.
confuses me sometimes, man, as ShowTime is kind of struggling to really put some attacks together. And Spear right now, yeah, absorbing these attacks. Water Wisp comes in. Actually, 2 of them there on Spear, and those are wasted attacks here as he's holding on to these 2 lightnings. He's playing a support role.
Yeah, he's not going to be the front runner. Now, the lead here in terms of players definitely goes to ShowTime right now, and sometimes Lightning alone isn't going to be enough. World only holding a Magnet. He wishes he had a Nitro here as well. Let's see what he picks up in this box. It's going to be critical. Oh, UFO EMP is not what he wanted, and I think we're going to need to see those Lightnings come out here pretty soon as Seongnam is trying to push forward. You've got Angel here, but item advantage and place advantage definitely to ShowTime, but World...
Ooh, Lightnings pop, but Angel Shields are able to deflect it, and Fron right now on the low ground. Oh, the UFO! The UFO comes in, and World celebrates as KWANGDONGFREECS pick up track number 2.
Oh, the
that
timing.
was a clutch UFO.
The timing, they pick up the UFO at the last possible second and use it during that interim when Fron takes first, because I thought for sure ShowTime is going to take this just by war of attrition, because yeah, you've got those Lightnings, but somebody's going to block, somebody's going to push through. They just had too many members there in the top 4. It was basically 3-1 with World trying to come through. I mean, you could see it in the placements here, but that one UFO, I think coming from Spear, I'm not 100% sure, but that was what did them in, and they are able to close it out in the end. Fron, man, so close yet so far, and now we are on match point here. KWANGDONGFREECS might take this one 6-1. It would be nice to pick up +5 here with a 2-0 victory, but it's now the track selection of ShowTime and Factory Brody's Gloom. See if they can bring us back to start a potential reverse sweep here. Has to start now if it's going to happen at all.
Yeah, their plan coming into today against the KWANGDONGFREECS was, you know, take the L there in speed mode. The Freaks are one of the hardest teams to beat in team speed and come through with a win and item, but here they are down 0-2, fighting for their life against the KWANGDONGFREECS as we go to their map choice. For track number 3, it will be Factory Brody's Gloom. Potentially the final track of the night is the Freaks are looking to pick up +5 in round differential with a 3-1 win in speed and potentially a 3-0 win here in item. Cool, off to a great start. Some attacks coming in there on Fron as he is the punching bag here, getting ready to go on Brody's Gloom.
Yeah, Seongnam here hugging the left side to try to avoid any water balloons here. As you can see, that's a very important strategy. Is Monster going to eat some damage here, and now Seongnam has a pretty nice lead. He was bullied right out of the start, but actually is able to avoid taking too much of a delay, picks up the item off that first box, and has just kind of let everyone else fight each other while he pulls ahead. Now has 2 shields, and this is sometimes what you're looking for here. We don't see the strategy all the time, and KWANGDONGFREECS have kind of been opposed to it here. But if you have a lead that's as big as this, I mean, look at how far Flare is away from everybody else, and then look at how far then Seongnam is further away. He's used both of his shields now, is going to eat that EMP. I mean, maybe there's a world where he actually has that lead as well, the barricade combo.
Barricade plus banana combo there is finally, I think, that UFO will connect with Seongnam. Actually, it might not have, as it looks like he was continuing right out of the gate, and he just holds on to 2 more shields. So the attacks for ShowTime just have not been able to connect here onto Seongnam as he continues to build this lead, looking at a picture-in-picture.
So this is true, and it is only a 2-lap track, but at the same time, you've got a Magnet here. You have the numbers advantage as ShowTime. I actually really like their position here. There's just not a whole lot. They're out of steam now, KWANGDONGFREECS, putting everything in the Seongnam basket. It's still winnable, but it definitely feels like a massive advantage.
Seongnam got stamped right there.
This is not the Cogwheel Crush, it's Brody's Gloom, the Crush.
Yeah, man. All right.
Cool.
Cool coming in with the attack. That shield a little bit early, but was able to last long enough to deflect the Water Wisp. 1 more shield does get popped. Actually, face picking up another one there. And finish line only 500 meters away. Flare now with a lot of speed comes in. UFO does get popped. Actually does hit the barricade. So now it's up to phase here for ShowTime, but the water balloon connects.
No way. Lightning slowing them down.
Oh, the Lightning slows them down just enough for Fron to spread the needle and put ShowTime on the board. I can't believe it, as I thought for sure the KWANGDONGFREECS were going to be able to deliver that win. You can see ShowTime, I'm not sure exactly who that was.
That was Fron, man. He's like, oh, thank God.
Yes.
That was so close.
That was insane, as it felt like the Freaks had so much invested and having one player just race away with it. That one ShowTime, using that magnet there as the great equalizer, we're able to get back into the thick of things.
But I mean, watch. I hope we get the replay of this because 2 critical barricades just ruined ShowTime, and I think it's nerves. I think they're feeling the excitement of like, oh my god, okay, we might actually win this one. The reverse sweep is possible. We could do this, and then bam, hit a barricade. Another barricade comes up. Like barricade is one of the most useless items actually usually in the final stretch because it's very transparent, very easy. Very easy to dodge, but they actually crash into 2 of them that don't have any shields, and then it's actually the lightning there that comes through as Bubble hits here, and then Seongnam with the lightning on top of him. This lightning actually saves ShowTime. Braun passes both of them. They were both like sub 10 meters away from that checkered flag. You see the audience reaction here is insane. KWANGDONGFREECS fan watching on as they will not be getting the 6-1 victory tonight. Maybe we'll see a reverse sweep.
Yeah, that lightning was absolutely clutch. ShowTime's gonna have to come through with some more plays like that to continue the dream of the reverse sweep here against the Freaks. As we move on to track number 4, it will be Mine Magma Cavern.
It is ShowTime's chance now to win their first match here in Kartrider Drift League, and also to take out the KWANGDONG would be such an epic achievement. But they still have trade, and they still have a lot of track left to play here.
I love Cool sacrificing himself just to push Braun off of the edge right there, as Braun, of course, the hero there for ShowTime on the previous track. And as far as item tracks go, Magma Cavern, one of my personal favorites, also one of the most technical tracks here in item mode. There are a lot of tricks that teams can have under their sleeves. There are a lot of narrow passageways like this one right here heading towards the finish line, where exactly as we just saw, that was either Flare or Braun who got caught there for ShowTime. Water balloons, undodgeable from that position unless you have a shield.
There's so many moments where water balloons are strong here, like even on this bridge, right, where you go onto the actual mine track itself. It's so difficult to actually avoid and actually impossible at certain sections based on the narrow width. So it's a very strong item there. Now, this means defensive items are crucial. World is holding on to 2 of them. Will, of course, get caught here despite that shield. He's got an Angel.
And the same is true also for rockets coming into this one, because everybody's running that balloon that turns the rocket effect into a banana peel effect, and so you spin out. But you can't turn when you're spinning, and there are so many sections of this track, like here, for instance, where if your momentum is carrying you off and you cannot correct, you might just fall into the magma.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. FaZe here, massive lead in terms of his positioning. Look at that picture-in-picture. He is just way up there. He also has a Lightning, which he may just simply want to use for tempo to build that lead, and he will, in fact, do so. I think this is the right call. Try to burn an Angel. Now he's got a shield. He's going to have to use that for the Wisp, but, man, he's in good position here right now. UFO also blocked. I mean, this is looking very good. 200 meters to go, and that reverse sweep, it's definitely possible, man. Monster's spinning around. He says this one's done. FaZe with the spin out, but I think he's going to cross it.
Yeah,
and ShowTime bringing us to a 5th.
There was no equalizer there. Oftentimes the magnet is the tool that these teams use to close the distance when one player has a runaway, but FaZe was just uncontested, and the attacks from the flank from Team ShowTime were relentless. Nobody on the KWANGDONGFREECS was able to truly close the distance, because not only did they not get the magnet, but the attacks just were non-stop there for ShowTime, and we go from a 2-0 lead for the KWANGDONGFREECS to now tied 2-2, getting ready to go into track number 5. And Wolf, the dream.
It's alive. And Braun, I mean, he was also in second, right? So you're so far away as FaZe that the only 2 things that can hit you are a Wisp and a UFO, essentially, and a Lightning, of course, but they didn't have any available, and it isn't going to change the tide of battle too much, right? But then he has the shield for the Wisp, and then he picks up an EMP at the last possible second to then also deny the UFO, and that is just enough to end it, while obviously Braun is blocking for him as best as he can and absorbing the rest of the aggro there. And that buffer is so important if you're going to run this strategy. And it's the first time we've really seen that on that particular track, actually, Magma Caverns there, where you actually are able to get that massive lead and turn it into a like 500, 600 meter lead to win the race. And now we're going to see Clock Tower crossing never cast this track. I don't think it's happened. It's gonna be my first time. It's a very basic one. It is gonna be very much like Shark's Wake, where there's a lot of fighting happening constantly, non-stop.
Yeah, well, ShowTime, man, they said from the very beginning that their plan here against the Freaks was to win in item mode. It's so difficult for them to beat titans like the Freaks in speed. And so here for ShowTime, now that you're all tied up 4-4, I mean, you're coming here into your map pick. You just beat the Freaks on their map pick. Perhaps they have some tricks up their sleeves. Perhaps they have a plan. As the Freaks right now, they're checking a replay, I think, of the previous match. I'm not sure exactly what it is that they are checking, but you know, the score right now, 2-2 as it is, unless we have some kind of referee decision, but I do question whether anything happened. I certainly didn't catch anything.
Yeah, so we're gonna, off screen, you know, we're gonna see, like, I personally didn't see anything that seemed sus, but we're gonna keep an eye on what happened here. He's like, for real, you guys are gonna review this? We'll see if anything gets caught on from our perspective here as KWANGDONG review this, because we don't have the comms. We don't know exactly what is happening. It's not like the previous series where we had a very clear % disconnect into a slam into the wall. Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Looks normal to me and what we're watching thus far.
Yeah, sorry that you guys can't see this on air right now. It's just the referee checking exactly what is going on, but I'm not sure, at least from my perspective of casting, I'm not sure exactly what happened that the Freaks are wondering about.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what, you know, the potential hang-up might be, but it could have been something that happened off screen, maybe toward the back ranks that we completely missed.
It looks like it's something off of the start here with Flair. They keep looking at Flair's start, where he starts and then goes to pick up 2 items. And I'm not entirely sure what the issue is, but he stays back, grabs 2 nitros, and we keep watching him pick up 2 nitros. So
yeah, I'm not sure what the rule is that the Kwangdong Freaks are checking.
I mean, it might be something about the drop rate of nitro.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm getting the update that he reversed, actually.
Oh, he drove backwards on the track.
Yeah, and
you're allowed to stall
you
and
can't
turn for 2 items, but perhaps you cannot.
So here's the reason why reverse is illegal in item mode, just to give you guys the update. So Flair actually did an illegal reverse, actually. This is what, so I didn't realize he had actually gone back, but notice that he actually reverses. The reason why this is illegal is because a player could, in theory, stay and camp this item block and then constantly toss lightnings, et cetera, right, throughout the entire race. So that's illegal. So he actually had an illegal reverse, and I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means it's an auto loss or if it means it's a replay or what's going to happen. Maybe KWANGDONG decide they're going to drop the penalty, but we'll let you guys know as soon as possible. But yeah, that is illegal. You cannot drive backwards in item mode because it will allow you to potentially just camp boxes.
Yeah, that was a very good catch either by the Freaks or by the coaching staff to recognize that happened, because, you know, in the moment at the very beginning of the track, I wasn't really paying attention to it, but now that I see the replay, it's very clear. So we're now waiting on what the admin decision will be, as it seems like the Freaks are continuing to discuss as it stands right now. 2-2 potentially going into a track number 5. We'll see what the decision is.
Yeah, I'm just waiting on the update for you guys, but we'll have to wait and see what the ruling ultimately is. And seems to be some discussions between the coaching staff and referees, some disputes on this one, as the angle he took, you know, made it look like, to me, like it was reversed, but it is, it's hard to say. Like, well, you know, this is quite rare, and these are pro players, right, who know the rules, obviously, so.
Yeah, some of these rules can be quite niche. You know, I mean, this is certainly the first time that I have encountered this here at the KDL.
So one thing I noticed is that the reverse indicator didn't come up on his screen. Well, this is from the replay client, right? So if in fact he did reverse, it should have shown the reverse indicator, like you're driving the incorrect direction. I don't know if that shows up in the observing client or not, but that may actually be the deciding factor, is whether or not the game said he went reverse or not. Because if you go backwards, it'll tell you in-game that, hey, you're going the wrong way. There's an indicator for that. That might actually be like the threshold where we decide.
Yeah, there might be a certain margin where, you know, say you pass an extra 1 or 2 meters and then that indicator pops up and it's like, okay, this is officially a reverse, and it's an issue.
Yeah,
As,
that's I think that like that's probably like ultimately going to be the deciding factor, I guess. Because the angle he took was very like it was very diagonal, right? And it seemed very well thought out the way he wanted to take it, so he wasn't reversing, but.
Right. I mean, if he wanted to, he could have just gone full 180 and then go back and get 2 items and then go. But still, the issue with it is, or I shouldn't say the issue, but what makes it such a complicated decision is the fact that he did move past those items and then move maybe 1, maybe 2 meters back to collect 2 more. So I'm not sure exactly what the technicality is of the rule, what the nuance is, and I think that's going to be the determining factor that the referee uses to make his decision.
Exactly, because like if you're actually moving backwards, is that reverse if the game doesn't give you the warning of you are going in reverse? Like I think that's probably going to be really ultimately the dispute. And if anyone's going, well, this wasn't that important, he picked up 2 nitros and then rushed back in, and it wasn't actually a deciding factor in the race. These rules still have to be enforced.
Rules matter.
Yeah,
rules matter.
If you start wondering like, well, if it doesn't affect the outcome of a race, do we enforce it? Then the wider rules exist, right? So like this is actually very serious, and I'm glad you point out like the KWANGDONGFREECS coach, who's the most famous coach right in KDL right now, and has his own like vlogs and stuff he's doing. He's always involved, and he's got a good eye, right? He's always here in the studio. He watches live, sometimes actually from the audience, and he's making a statement on this one, and the referees will have to review it, and we'll see what is ultimately decided. As I want to, like, I don't mind when this type of discussion goes long, because this ruling may actually affect the regular KDL like this. So you know, this is important. This is why we do preseasons, right? These types of scenarios aren't always foreseen. You make a ruling here. Now we know what happens when this happens in real KDL in a few months' time later this year.
Yeah, and precedent does exist in these kind of games. I mean, say for instance, if the referee's like, okay, this is not officially a reverse because the reverse indicator did not come up on the screen. Well, now suddenly we might have a change in the meta where you might have racers doing exactly this move intentionally all of the time. It could be a meta-defining moment, and I love that you said this is the preseason. This is where we're ironing out the kinks of this new game before we head into the first official regular season of the KDL preseason. And it's important that these discussions take place between the referees, between the players, between the coaches, because ultimately this will decide how these encounters and how the meta is going to evolve over the course of the rest of the history of this game.
Yeah. This is wild, too, because, you know, it's right off the starting gates as well. It wasn't used in a way to be abusive, as we'll watch again.
Yeah, so Flare, you can see that he is past the items. He goes back maybe 1, maybe 2 meters to pick up 2 boxes and then proceeds with a nitrous. And so it seems like the holdup is, or not the holdup, but the discussion between the administrators, the referees,
and the
coaches.
coaching staff, right? Yeah, and, like, I look at this and I go, well, he has clearly gone backwards, but he did not reverse, like he didn't drive his cart backwards, nor did he drive directly against Trek. He went diagonally. So that's the line we have to draw, because factually, as you said, he went back several meters. Like he did pass them. And so if it means that you can't go back in any way, then that also affects other things. Like, for example, what if you intentionally hit a wall to then back up, you know, and you didn't actually turn? Like, there's a lot that goes into this, right? So this is a very important decision for the future of KDL.
I hadn't actually considered that.
There are other ways to actually go back and repeatedly grab items. It's not something that you want to ever have be a thing in item mode, because then one player's job just becomes to spam boxes, and that is a way to ruin the competitive integrity, right? Which is why this rule of no reverse is in place.
I mean, even if the competitive integrity is held because both teams would be doing a strategy like that, it doesn't make for a good viewing experience.
Exactly.
It takes away from a meta that is evolving in a way that makes it more interesting time after time. I mean, KDL Preseason 1, item mode was very much about the wombo combo there at the end of every single track. Here in KDL Preseason 2, it's become a lot more dynamic. Now we're seeing strategies that you implement on some tracks but not on others. Now we're seeing strategies where one player tries to break away, and the higher generation rates of attacks coming in means that the team is actually able to defend that racer. And so, you know, keeping the meta shifting in a good way by enforcing rules is part of the job, because I mean, at the end of the day, we are putting on a show.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And we have to
ShowTime.
agree with a rule set that is going to be the healthiest for the game, the healthiest for the community, the healthiest for the esport. And so the discussion is continuing to take place, I think, between the coaches, the players, and the staff.
Yeah, that's as far as we know. Now, we'll see what the decision is ultimately.
Waiting to hear from our producers on exactly what the decision is going to be here from the referee, as it seems like they might have reached one.
Yeah, so they may have come to a agreement. We won't give the official ruling until it is officially given to us, but still discussing as far as I know. And at the end of the day, like, even if there's going to be a punishment, like what is the punishment? Is it a regame? Is it a warning? You know, who knows? We are saying the race will stand, and the referee says it's not an illegal move. We're moving on to Village Clock Tower Crossing.
All right, track number 5 here, Village Clock Tower Crossing. It all comes down to this, Wolf. Let's go. Just to make sure everyone has their bearings, we are tied 2-2 here between the Freaks and ShowTime. The Kwangdong Freaks, they won speed mode. So one track win here will be a 2-0 victory for him. However, should ShowTime win this track, we will go to an ace match after this.
And it will be the first ace match for ShowTime in their careers here in the KDL, and I'd love to see it, but they're going to have to win this one first, right? And you know, we've had a little bit of spice tonight, haven't we, here at KDL?
It's been an interesting day, man. I mean, we had that disconnect in the previous series, which, I mean, the referees made absolutely the perfect call.
That's huge.
Both Cool and Fran collide in midair there.
It's
actually, both of them drop off.
It's going to limit how many players are actually up here in the front. It's just going to take a really long time for those two to catch up. They're now going to be essentially supporters at the back, and this gives a huge lead to Flair and Monster. Now Flair can play the defender here. FaZe is up here as well. I think this actually, based on where the positions were, heavily favors ShowTime, and they were the ones who set that up to get Cool to fall down there. He's catching up now here, gets into top 4, but you can see there's a large distance now between Spear and Monster.
Yeah, I don't know exactly who that was on the Freaks that went through the attack on Monster, but they did a great job of navigating that one as Monster was almost out of range. We're able to connect with him, pop one shield, but still, he is continuing to race away. And looking at the minimap right now, the players here on ShowTime just continue to increase in distance, and although Fran does get swiped there and will spin out, Monster's continuing to go, blows through these barricades, and Cool right now 4 seconds behind.
And now Monster is able to pick up double shields here. Cool denied an item box here, gets a magnet, but only gets one item and is instantly denied. And this is really rough. I mean, the distance for Monster is huge. He has double shields, and it's really only a UFO that can bring him down. World's holding one. He's going to toss it out now. Monster going to eat that, but he's still got a shield. He's got a banana. World also hit. This might just be too much of a lead here, State.
Yeah, it's a very big lead right now for Monster. He still has one shield in the bag, and looking at the inventory right now for the Kwangdong Freaks, they are scrambling. They do have that one lightning bolt, but the distance might be too great. Only 400 meters to go, and Monster isn't across the finish line as they come through with a victory here, and ShowTime complete the dream of the reverse sweep here in item mode. They said that their plan from the beginning, they know they can't beat the Kwangdong Freaks in a team match, in a 4v4 in speed, but they knew they could contest them here in item, and they did it, man.
I think that was the best teamwork we've seen from this roster just yet, and you could see that once the pressure is off, once they feel like, I can do this, we are going to actually accomplish this, they're just playing better, and the experience that Kwangdong has over them, we know that's always going to be there. And if they both play for 5 more years of both these rosters, Kwangdong would still have the experience advantage, right? But you look at when the pressure is off, when these guys are feeling pumped, when they're feeling good, they are playing well. The question now, though, becomes, in ShowTime's first ace match, who will they send out here? I also wanted to give one final update on our last issue we got, which was that the official rule is that if you use any sort of exploit or anything that's against what the regulations are for a part of a strategy, it can be considered okay. That's what I was told officially. So that's the official ruling on that, why the referee said it was a strategical move. Definitely one that that will definitely cause some controversy and will be talked about for days to come, but that was the official ruling. Just wanted to say that for once because we didn't actually get the full reasoning for the referee there because we jumped right into the track. But moving to the ace match now, I mean, for the side of Kwangdong Freaks, both World and Cool have proven themselves so many times in these critical moments. And I think World was given a lot of chances in Preseason 1. He delivered. My money's on him right now. But you know, the Kwangdong coaching staff is going to have to decide who they think he might match up against and what that matchup is going to look like. It's just hard to know what ShowTime is going to do here because they haven't been able to play teams very close just yet.
Yeah, it's hard to make the decision here for ShowTime, but really, the Freaks, it feels like any player on their roster, if they were to send them out into that ace match, they can deliver a win, right? I mean, this is a team that, up until this point, identified as 1 speed ace and 3 runners because their speed prowess is simply that great. And for ShowTime, really, this is them going through the gauntlet right now, a 1v1 against potentially the best racer in the world here of the FREECS as we move on. It's going to be World Tour Terracotta Twisters, the ace track.
Yeah.
What a track to finish this thing off on.
This gets wild, too, on Terracotta. I love when ace matches are here. Now, expectation is World for KWANGDONGFREECS. Ghost is the speed ace, and it will be him.
Yeah.
They have chosen to come out here, and this is like one of the most successful players in Kartrider Drift in World, who did fantastic in solos, of course, who's on the defending champions for team, against Ghost, who's a new rising player here. It is going to be so exciting to see if he can upset here. This would be huge. KWANGDONGFREECS losing to ShowTime in their first loss of the season? That might happen. It's down to 1 race here.
It could be the biggest upset here of KDL Preseason 2 as we get ready to go into the deciding match. The winner of this track will win it all. Let's go to World Tour Terracotta Twister.
One last track of Terracotta Twister to decide the match between KWANGDONGFREECS and ShowTime. ShowTime with the reverse sweep in item. KWANGDONGFREECS crushing 3-1 in speed. And now, will World win another ace here? He's behind right now, Ghost, in this 2-lap track of Terracotta.
Behind Ghost right now, but ahead in Nitrous. And keep in mind, that draft can come through in the clutch. He's right behind Ghost. Actually seems like this might be where he wants to play, is to just keep Ghost under pressure, make him go for the dangerous build, make him try to feel like he has to make something happen to pull away from World here. As you just see on the left side, World consistently a fraction of a second ahead on that second Nitrous ahead of Ghost here. It seemed like for a moment there, World would try to go for that tight inner. Ghost was able to zone him out, but as of yet, no real mistakes on either side.
Great reaction there from Ghost, though, to see the inner attempt and block it, but now you're starting to see World. He drafts here, then pushes ahead. Now Ghost, again, behind in Nitro. You mentioned it earlier. It's about 1/4 of a Nitro boost behind that he is, so this means World will essentially have an extra boost when we get to that final part of the second lap, and World is so fantastic at holding on to these leads in ace matches. He is a hard nut to crack, and you see Ghost is trying to find angles. Now, when we move into the inner part of this track, if you make a mistake, that's it, the race is done. If you try to cut across, World blocks you, you fall off, that's it, it's done. So,
whoa!
Whoa!
What a play there by Ghost, taking the tighter line. World thought he was going to be able to body block, but just barely missed it by a hair, and now Ghost is in the lead here, entering the inner tunnel. Let's see if both players are able to navigate these turns carefully. It's very precarious here. One mistake could spell disaster as World able to close the distance now right behind Ghost. And look at the Nitrous gauges. They're completely tied.
Yeah, Ghost taking some inefficient turns here as well. World's going to pass him. 5 minutes to go. No! What a choke! What a choke! Ghost is going to do it!
Oh my goodness! World collides with the wall and Ghost, the rookie! ShowTime, they have yet to win a match here in the KDL Preseason, and they do it against the reigning champions!
Oh, Ghost!
What an upset!
I mean, he had some inefficient turns there, and World was actually going straight corner to corner diagonal. He was being more efficient. He passed, but he just hits the wall. He just straight runs into the wall. He just absolutely tosses that win away, and Ghost, he's not going to make a mistake. He's going to capitalize. He's going to win. And what a crazy circumstance. You can't be 10 out of 10 every night, KWANGDONGFREECS, and tonight, it's going to be ShowTime, the first team to defeat him here in Preseason 2. I had no idea walking into today that we were going to see an upset win here. I didn't think it was possible. I just couldn't even imagine it. You and I were saying we got 2 close series, and then KWANGDONG probably absolutely crush, right? They're the ones who lose ultimately here to ShowTime, and they take their first win of the season against the defending champions. Can't write a better story than this for these rookie players.
And you could just see the emotion there on Ghost's face. This has to be one of the pinnacle moments of his Kartrider career so far, as It seems like he is in disbelief, but man, you just did that here on the biggest stage, KDL Preseason. Kart Rider players around the world always dream of playing on this stage, and you just took down in a 1v1 ace match the undefeated KWANGDONGFREECS.
I gotta see too. I gotta see a replay of this one because it just seemed, unless I'm missing something, it just seemed like a huge error. You know, it didn't seem like this was, I mean, Ghost's initial pass was massive. As we got baited, I thought we were going to see a replay. Because Ghost's initial pass, right, that was incredible. He played that so well off of the jump, and then the attempted block from World wasn't good enough. He passed him there. But then World took way better corner-to-corner turns in the inner parts there on the final part of the lap, but then hit the wall, and that's the end of that. I mean, we have seen these ace matches in the past. We've seen Neil choke, for example, and have a poor collision to cost him the race. We've seen collision in the early parts of the first lap. As we are taking a look at the replay on our screens, man, they're just doing this to us today, where they show us and you guys don't get to see.
Wow, what an incredible race, though. What an incredible story here for ShowTime, a team that coming into today was yet to put a win on the board, and now you've done it against the reigning champions, one of the most storied, if not the most storied team in Kart Rider history. The KWANGDONGFREECS, excuse me, as Ghost coming up against World in what might be the biggest upset here of the preseason.
Of
certainly
both preseasons,
preseason 1 or preseason 2 with, I mean, these up-and-coming teams. I mean, Ghost, the speed ace, everything on the line, just comes through in the clutch for his team. And what a storybook Cinderella ending.
Oh. We're getting a very strange update. I will let you guys know what we are told. Apparently there was a client issue.
Yeah,
and,
what's...
Huh.
I see the players packing up their keyboards. I'm not sure exactly what the situation is right now. Referees are discussing again. Huh. Oh my goodness, Wolf. My heart can't take this.
I can't. This series is just wild. I mean, we went from the craziest upset to, after like the crazy pause, illegal reverse, to, okay, now we're being told that this is going to be rematched.
Yeah, we're getting confirmation from our producing staff now that there will be a rematch. There apparently might have been some PC problem, perhaps, on World's computer. This is...
So, okay, so let's talk about this, because actually I was wondering about this.
Wow.
Remember that off of the jump, when the swap happened and we were like, wow, World actually couldn't get the block and Ghost outplayed him? In that moment, both carts were on top of each other, right? And the way that they interacted with each other was like, they just kind of pushed apart from each other. That gave a lead to World, but that has, I mean, ultimately that was not what decided the race, right? I mean, what decided the race was the final moments there, which we didn't get a replay of. So the cars didn't actually push away from each other. They were like overlaid on top of each other, and then essentially instead of pushing each other away or like bouncing off, they just kind of went through each other, which is, I think, part of the game, because if you end up colliding on top of each other like that, it's one of the ways for the game to correct it. But I'm not that technically versed on like these types of collisions myself.
Man, I'm kind of at a loss for words right now.
Yeah.
You know, my heart is breaking for ShowTime and for Ghost, as that was a tremendous race, but
I mean, this is tonight's Kart Rider match will go down in history. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what right now, State. This is going to be one for the history books.
I mean, especially this particular series between ShowTime and the Freaks, right? I mean, what an insane story from start to finish. The drama of, you know, the item mode restart that occurred earlier today, and now potentially a rematch between these two players, as it sounds like what we're hearing is exactly what you said.
Yeah.
When these two cars, when they do overlay, that should lead to a situation where there is a collision, but there in fact was none. And
yeah, like
I'm like you. I mean, I don't know exactly what the technicalities of the rules are in these cases, but
it looked like an outplay from Ghost, or sorry, yeah, from Ghost. But like, we're gonna watch it again, and it looked like it was off of a jump, but it's actually right before the turn. It's like off. Okay, so it's after this turn, and then there's a bit of a bounce, right? We're watching it on our screens, and I hate to do this to you guys because, you know, it's unfortunate that like you can't see this, but
I'm hoping they're preparing the replay to actually show on stream to solidify the decision here.
Yeah,
It's
I'd love
been
for
a
you guys to be able to see it.
tumultuous day. I mean, even for myself personally, I need to see this replay and
Yeah.
have the rule explained clearly
Exactly.
to truly understand what is happening here. Is you can just see on ShowTime's faces just disbelief, really. And Ghost, I mean, they go from the high of having beaten one of the best racers in the world and secured your team's first victory here on the professional stage in the KDL preseason, and then to learn that you might potentially need to be going back into a rematch. I can only imagine what he is going through emotionally right now. And from there, as a rookie who's trying to put your mark on the scene, how do you go from that high and that low and then back into the competitive environment that is a 1v1 ace match with the right mindset that can deliver a win?
Yeah, and you know, it's on this strange technicality that's out of your control. It's not your fault. Looks like we're gonna come back on camera here, but
I don't
really
know if an official decision has yet been made. We have heard that there might be a rematch, and the referees are still exactly trying to figure out what happened here, but
So like the situation is quite complicated, but it is what it is, and we're gonna let you guys know as soon as we get the decision. But it looks like, you know, this is going to be reviewed for a while. We may need some additional time. It's wild, man.
It's been a crazy night.
Look, to me, historically, you know, across esports, when something like this happens, you gotta like, you know, I don't know if we're going to a break or not, but
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I think we're staying on for now.
yeah.
But yeah, you were saying.
I was just gonna say, like, normally when something like this happens in esports, it's like really unfortunate, right? And like these things do happen, right? So bear with us. I'm sorry you guys have to wait, and like we're not 100% sure what the result of this ultimately will be, but thank you guys for being patient for us. And the ruling has been made.
Okay.
No rematch, actually.
All right, it's been confirmed.
Okay, now this is relieving. This is relieving to me because. Look, if you want a rematch on this, you got to call a pause, right? Like, you got to call a pause when it happens. You can't retroactively say, I don't know. I actually think this was the right call, personally.
Absolutely, I agree with that. I mean, it's a kind of situation where, I mean, it's a part of the game, frankly, right? And ShowTime, they got the better of it. Ghost raced incredibly well, and I don't want any of this to take away from the story that is ShowTime coming through here in the absolute clutch. And one of the most phenomenal races that we've seen here at the KDL preseason, not only from, you know, the tumultuous drama of potentially having a rematch or having, you know, decisions being made that could potentially affect the future of the KDL preseason and how rules are decided. For example, going back a couple of meters to try and pick up additional items, how that was approached. And the real story for me here tonight is
ShowTime beat KWANGDONGFREECS. That's the real story. Like,
in one of the most incredible upsets, not only of KDL preseason 2, but of KDL to this date. It's just an absolute Cinderella story, and hopefully this is something that will become a turning point for this team as ShowTime. I mean, we knew that the potential was always there for these guys, the rookies that are coming on stage. And you know, the first time that you're competing on stage here with a live audience, with casters, with many people watching you back at home, I mean, you know their family is supporting them, their friends are supporting them, their entire community is watching them. To come through here and deliver a win at last against the KWANGDONGFREECS, no less, is nothing short of a miracle. And Ghost raced incredibly well. They stuck to the plan. They said, we can't beat the Freaks in team match speed. And certainly, I mean, they made a good effort of it, but the Freaks, let's be frank, they outmuscled them. Their mechanics were so strong, especially on Zigzag Timberland. But then you go to the ace match, you secure item mode, beautiful stuff.
It was the complete turnaround of the team's mentality, right, that you could feel in the reverse sweep. Like, they played more confidently, they played more aggressively, and they took, obviously, a track of speed as well, so that's impressive in itself, right? I think KWANGDONGFREECS may be underestimating them a little bit here. And I'm not saying this win means that like there's something going to rocket through to postseason, but it's a huge momentum shift. It's going to be a night these players will never forget, and no one could ever take this win away from Ghost, I think. He is ultimately able to win it, and despite, like, you know, a little bit of a delay there, his record will stand, his win will stand in the ace match. So it's going to be one of those nights where you know, like, wow, we really did it. We actually beat this team in item mode. We actually won the ace match against World, one of the world's best kart rider drift racers, who's been in countless ace matches and has won almost all of them, if not all of them, in fact. So, I mean, you've got to be feeling good if you're the side of ShowTime. If you're a KWANGDONG fan, you're a little bit frustrated with the loss, but it's still a long season. It's your first loss of the season, and you could definitely bounce back from this.
I mean, they're certainly going to go to the postseason, and I would be surprised if the Freaks did not make it. And, you know, for ShowTime, they might not be able to make it to the postseason as we get a look at the match results for the day. You know, I mean, coming in from a pretty poor start, but here beating the KWANGDONG it's got to feel so good. And overall, just fantastic matches from start to finish. I mean, this is one of the most exciting days of KDL preseason that I have casted thus far, with Liiv SANDBOX here defeating Aura 2-0. Speed was an incredibly close match. Love to see it, 3-2 and a 3-1 win in item.
Yeah, and the item mode was pretty close too. A lot of those could have really gone either way. But in the last few seconds were decided by Liiv SANDBOX, so we didn't get to see that ace match there. But pretty impressive stuff from these two squads, and you know, it was a series where you feel pretty good if you're a Liiv SANDBOX fan about the return to form in item. Seongnam ROX taking out Sensation here in what was also a pretty wild and back and forth match in speed, but item mode a little bit more one-sided there for Seongnam ROX. Sensation not able to take it there, and ends up being another 2-0.
Yeah, Seongnam ROX remaining undefeated. Them and Liiv SANDBOX, the only two teams that have been yet to lose a set here in the KDL preseason as we can continue on with a round-robin format. And Sensation, they've been looking really good. They're still contesting that top 4 spot because, of course, Aura also lost their match. So Aura right now sitting at 2-2 overall in their sets. Sensation at 1-2. Definitely both teams in striking distance of making playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really pivotal match for Sensation, you know, that they really wanted to take. There's still a chance for them to make that playoff run, but it's a little bit tougher now. We'll have to see the remaining schedule for them. And ShowTime, man, this is a screen nobody expected to see today. ShowTime taking out KWANGDONGFREECS, and in dramatic fashion, right, with the 3-2 reverse sweep in item, and then winning that ace match where, you know, World outplayed Ghost multiple times, but it wasn't able to cross the finish line first. And that's how it goes, man. Ghost, he got you. He got you.
He bent, but he never broke. And
no.
He just was able to deliver in the clutch. And you could see that World, he felt the pressure there at the final lap and went for a greedy play, was unable to make it happen. And just fantastic stuff here from ShowTime. And although right now ShowTime, they're sitting at 1-3 overall in the season, that might be out of, I mean, it's most likely out of postseason contention overall here as we look at the overall standings.
Yeah, I mean, look at ShowTime jumping ahead of Potential and Seraphic with this win. Obviously, they've played an additional game, so it's possible, especially with a round differential, for Potential to pass ShowTime if they also win their next matchup. But, I mean, it's just very cool to see ShowTime actually popping off here and beating what was, until now, our #1 team in the standings, KWANGDONGFREECS, dropping back to 3rd here. Now Liiv SANDBOX firmly the only undefeated team at 4-0.
Yeah, and for ShowTime, I mean, that's got to be a big momentum builder here. You got to be feeling so much more confident to finally come here on stage. You lose your first 3 matches, but then at last, you deliver a win in one of the most stunning ways possible. I mean, that was an exciting ace match from start to finish, and one of my personal favorites so far here in the KDL preseason too. Is hopefully for this team, this will be a turning point and something they look back on potentially in the regular season later on in this year as the moment where they knew that they had it together as a team.
Yeah.
And they could start to grow together and potentially reach the playoffs.
You know, Potential, we talked about they need to win that next match to pass them, but it's against ShowTime, right? And now this makes it even more of a rivalry between those two at the bottom side. If ShowTime can beat KWANGDONGFREECS, they should, in theory, be able to beat Potential too. So once you win 2 in a row, that momentum really starts rolling. So fairly easy schedule here for ShowTime in their 2 matches, or rather a ease up of schedule after this really first tough win. Then Sensation will go up against Seraphic. Now that's a win Sensation really needs to take if they want to go to playoffs. You lose this one and your chances drop substantially.
Following that, we will have solo match round of 16, match number 1 with Cool Sungbin Hyunsu World, Ding Neil George. That is a stacked, round of 16. Holy cow.
That is super stacked.
I want to see the other group there in the round of 16 because I don't feel like it gets much stronger than that. I mean, I guess Jung is not in that group, but that is
Hero.
a star-studded lineup.
It's
Wow.
crazy, man. We have an amazing round of 16, so I'm looking forward to it no matter what. But thank you guys for watching. Today was our triple team day. We will see you guys again for more Kart Rider Drift Preseason 2 on the weekend.